So, how many of you have been to a library in your area that lets you rent video games? Is that weird or kind of rare or something? Because it sounds pretty normal to me, as just about every library in my area lets you do so, but every time I talk about this with online friends, they always seem surprised. But yeah, my library lets you do that kind of thing, and it's been a really fun opportunity to try out games I've always wanted to, but could never find the opportunity elsewhere. Stuff like the 3DS Kirby games, the Mario and Luigi series, Detective Pikachu, a modern Donkey Kong Country game, Poke Park, Ratchet and Clank, the 3DS Nintendogs. I absolutely loved the original as a kid. Also, I got to try Rocket League, which is a game that absolutely is not made for me. Not a fan of sports games, or racing games, or car games for that matter. Games with battle passive mechanics and microtransactions are an inherent turnoff for me. And I'm not really a multiplayer guy in general, but something about this one just kind of hooked me for some reason. The library has even been able to get me into games that I absolutely love today. Like, for example, this is how I was first able to try the Final Fantasy series and Zero Escape. Yeah, my library was responsible for me getting into those sets of games. But anyway, I was browsing through a local library's collection over the summer, and I stumbled upon Minecraft Story Mode. And my first reaction was just, oh. You've probably at least heard of this game before. It was first announced at Minecon 2015 to a very mixed reception. A bizarre collaboration between Minecraft and Telltale Games, a company mostly well known for heavily story-focused experiences. Minecraft with a story? What kind of story can you get out of a funny block game like this? Well, it came out, and despite it selling well enough to be one of two games Telltale ever actually made money on, it still remained rather niche, and pretty mixed in terms of its reception as well. I feel like most people just maybe saw a single playthrough of their favorite Minecraft YouTuber playing it or something, and then never thought about it again. The most notable thing being a pretty infamous death scene. You know the one, if you know anything about this game. Deep down I've always wanted to try it, and to be honest, I never thought I'd actually be able to. I immediately checked it out, played it over the next 2 weeks or so, and I can see why it's decisive. It has good moments, it has bad moments, it has really bad moments, it has moments you're supposed to take seriously but just kind of make you laugh. It has a pig that makes this face sometimes. Its tone shifts like halfway through. Its characters are so one-dimensional, and a few of their personalities completely change at some point, and in one instance it accidentally creates the best character in the game. I love you, Ivor, we'll talk about you later. It has some genuinely interesting story concepts and cool villains. It has some tense moments. It has cringy moments. It has some kind of creepy moments. And no, I'm not talking about the uncanny animations of the characters. I'll talk about that eventually too. It has frustrating QuickTime events that actually ruin like every action sequence for me. It's weirdly meta sometimes. It left me simultaneously wanting more yet never wanting to play it again. I'm not even kidding when I say this, but like, this game is like Y2K levels of all over the place, and I know a thing or two about Yick. Minecraft Story Mode is an inconsistent disaster piece that's right up my alley. I need to talk about this game, like you don't understand. So I'm gonna make a big old video about it, and it will probably take me longer to make than anyone should ever really be looking into this game for. So I think something worth mentioning right now is that this game is currently delisted on all digital platforms. The company that actually developed the game, Telltale, went defunct in 2018 for reasons way over my head and way beyond the scope of this video. And this led to pretty much all of their games being removed from digital storefronts over the following year for, again, reasons over my head and way beyond the scope of this video. Oh, and because I know someone might mention it, there was a watered-down port of this game available on Netflix for a little bit as well, but that too is also delisted. So yeah, the only way to play this anymore are physical copies. All I will say is that, folks, this is specifically why game preservation is important and why AAA publishers are the worst thing to ever happen to video games. Minecraft Story Mode is one of said games to be delisted as a result of this, which pretty much leaves the only way to play it legitimately anymore to be through physical copies. Thank God those are still a thing. Although I don't have equipment to record this on a console, so all footage I'll be using for this video will be from various long plays and let's plays on YouTube. The majority of which being from Xcage Game, who I am infinitely thankful for allowing me to use so much of their playthrough for the purposes of this video. Go check out their stuff. It's a lot of cool gameplay footage for Honest to God, some of the most random selection of games I've ever seen. Thanks again, and without further ado, let's start the game. This title screen theme is weirdly haunting to me. Like, this game just doesn't feel real, you know? You can actually pick one of 6 player avatars for the protagonist in this game. Their name is going to be Jesse no matter who you pick, and a gender-neutral name like that actually lets them get away with giving you both male and female options, which is pretty cool. Going off most promotional material for the game, though, I think it's safe to assume that this guy is the most quote-unquote canon one. Though, it's cool that they give you options. Minecraft's all about player expression and all that. Chapter 1, The Order of the Stone. This game series adapts to choices you make. The story is tailored by how you play. Okay, that's something I probably should touch on too before we get too far in here. This is actually a staple of a lot of Telltale games, but constantly throughout the adventure, you'll be giving various choices on what to say, or where you'd want to go, or who you want to save, etc. And all of these choices have branching pathways and change how other characters will perceive you. A lot of the time, these changes are pretty minor, like, say, alt will change is what other characters will say or do immediately after, or a bit later into the game if they're really feeling clever, but there are a few examples where they can actually do things like change your appearance permanently, or give you a whole new story scenario. It's kinda cool and adds some replay value to these games, which for something this story-heavy is greatly appreciated. I only played the game once back when I tried it on Switch, so there's bound to be some stuff in this long play even I haven't seen before. We start with a bit of a lore dump about a legend that this world holds dear. A story of 4 heroes that defeat the Ender Dragon. Gabriel the Warrior, Ellegaard the Redstoner, Magnus the TNT guy, and Soren who's... they call the leader, but honestly he's just kinda there. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I'm already kinda interested here. Not in the story itself, some legendary heroes on an adventure is kind of run-of-the-mill for backstory stuff, but more in the sense that I'm curious where it's going to go. For those of you not really familiar with Minecraft, which I'm not sure how often I'm going to be saying that in this video, considering while it's the best-selling game of all time, there's always a chance my audience isn't super into it due to the types of game I typically play. The Ender Dragon is the final boss of Minecraft. You have to do an enormous, admittedly pretty annoyingly cryptic series of steps to actually find your way to it and defeat it. And I kind of assumed that this journey would be the story of the game going in. But that's already done. Does that mean that the entire game takes place in post-game, technically? It gets me curious what the story's actually going to be now. As we're introduced to our actual protagonist, we're asked,
would you rather fight 100 chicken-sized zombies or 10 zombie-sized chickens?
That. Okay, so this is how dialogue is handled for the most part in this game. Characters will ask you questions or for your opinion on something, and you have a limited time to pick one of 4 options, or even to say nothing at all, which can be pretty funny sometimes. I kinda like this dialogue system, to be perfectly frank. Apparently this is how they're usually handled in Telltale games, and it's a good way to keep the player involved and engage in conversation, so cutscenes aren't literally just watching it the whole time. Even if your choices don't change that much in the grand scheme of things. It kind of reminds me of how Golden Sun does dialogue. Our best friend here is Olivia, voiced by Martha Pillimpton, who has been acting in all sorts of things since the 80s. Although as far as I can tell, this is her only video game performance, which is kind of interesting. And your protagonist is voiced by either Patton Oswalt or Kathleen Tabor, depending on if you picked a male or female avatar respectively, both of which themselves have voice acted all sorts of characters. By the way, I am not a normie, like at all. I don't really know mainstream actors that well, so while I do like to say who voices each of these characters in these videos, when I look through their IMDb's to give examples of stuff they voiced in, I'm never able to tell what exactly their most popular roles are for the sake of making a good example here. That's it, and that's if I recognize their roles at all. Like Patton Oswalt, for example. When I looked through his page, I noticed he voiced the protagonist from Ratatouille, and the first thing that popped into my head was not, oh, Remy, but oh, Little Chef from Kingdom Hearts 3, which is wrong on so many levels, because not only does the character not originate from that game, but he also doesn't even talk in Kingdom Hearts 3. I looked through Catherine's Tabbers page, and the only role I really recognize is specifically Lego Padme of all things, because she was the only character I didn't feel insane while playing as when I played that game of Cosmic a little while back. Padme, I need you. You're my comfort character in this game. I don't know if I'm using that term correctly, but like... These actors are all great and all, but I just don't watch enough mainstream stuff to really recognize their voices when I hear them. So if I ever come off as a little quick when talking about voice work, that's why. And also why you're not going to hear me talk about specifically voice performances that much either. Because I have heard people complain that with this game, they claim that a lot of these actors didn't give it their all, or gave lines too much of their all, or didn't understand the characters or tone, or they were a horrible choice for said character or whatnot, which I think is more of a voice direction issue than the actors' faults themselves, but whatever. The writing is pretty bad sometimes, and I certainly will be bringing that up a lot, but I guess I just don't have a good ear for good voice work versus bad ones. Like, on top of not really being into pop culture, like I mentioned a second ago, you also gotta remember that I grew up on, like, PlayStation-era dubbing, so I guess bad voice work just isn't as immersion-breaking to me as it would be for most people. Back to the story, though. We start in a treehouse talking with our best friend Olivia about that random hypothetical. We talk a bit about Redstone stuff, and
Ruben is the best pet I could ask for. Obedient, loyal, and always happy to see me at the end of a long day. No, friend. I should have said friend,
Ruben,
not pet.
Jesse's pet pig, who is also a major character. We're all going to God, that's distracting. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to go on another tangent here. Okay, so talking animations. When you have a game with a lot of dialogue, you'll often find yourself animating them speaking. And there are a few ways to do this. If you're working with a AAA budget with actual realistic models, one extreme is you can meticulously animate every syllable, string them together in a natural way, even change them between languages if you're ambitious enough. If your game has a bit of a lesser budget, though, or is indie, or the art style would make too much animation like that look weird, or just don't think it'd be worth the effort, because admittedly this is a pretty extra thing to do in the first place, what you could often do is just create different mouth shapes for your characters, and then flash between them on your characters' faces when it's appropriate for them to do so. There's definitely a sliding scale to all of this here, but hopefully you get what I'm getting at. When Minecraft Story Mode asked themselves which approach they want to go for regarding this whole question, though, their answer was to throw their hands up and go, fuck it, let's do both for some reason. They create all of these unique, realistic mouth shapes for every type of speech for every character, and line them up with every word spoken in a way that looks correct on a physicality level, which in all honesty would be a pretty smart thing to do for a game with as much story as your average Telltale game. But there aren't these blocky, simplified Minecraft skin characters, and what ends up happening as a result is this clashing amount of work put into talking animations, combined with the straightforward and art style, is this uncanny, unsettling, borderline creepy mashup sometimes that I genuinely found distracting the entire game. It is truly baffling. Like, did no one at any point high up in production not look at this and go, yeah, that looks a little weird. Especially when characters are up close, it's especially intrusive when they try to get all dramatic and position the camera real close to the people's faces, and they talk like this. And it sucks, because I know a lot of time and energy must have been put into making all of this work like this, when a much easier approach of either just making a couple talking sprite characters would cycle through, or even utilizing subpixeling to a certain extent, would have looked much better. I once found this video where someone created the entirety of the original trailer for this game in, like, actual Minecraft utilizing some of these techniques, and I think this looks like a lot better in, like, every way, to be perfectly honest. This is a game that is 95% listening and reacting to spoken dialogue. It's an obvious elephant in the room that I really needed to bring up earlier, or was just going to bother me to no end. Apparently some people like the strange talking animations. The biggest reason is that they remind them of old-school machinimas. Now, I am not explaining machinimas in this video, that's a whole can of worms in and of itself, but back in the day there were, and heck still are a lot of Minecraft fan animations, tons of which, especially since a lot of them are music videos for whatever reason, came up with their own ways to animate talking onto the normally mute Minecraft characters. And I guess how the speaking is animated in this game makes some people nostalgic for these styles of videos. I will say that while I still think these look super weird and distracting, I can definitely see this angle. And heck, if anything, I'm actually a little curious now if these were a direct inspiration, or even if people who worked on animations for this game were machinima creators back in the day. Okay, but let's actually start talking about the plot now. So our story begins in a treehouse. We play as Jesse, he has a pet pig named Ruben, and we're hanging out with our best bud Olivia. We're talking about going to some convention get-together thing before getting jump-scared by our other best friend, Axel, voiced by Brian Hosen? I think that's how you say it. And, okay, speaking of Axel, here's another thing that kind of bothers me. So, Minecraft character models are traditionally these proportions. Kind of a generic upright figure that you're free to express any kind of skin you'd like onto it, right? Like, hell, here's the one I personally use. It was made by a good friend of mine, and it's based off an OC of mine. This is the blank canvas factory default middle ground character size that we all have in common. But Axel's character design just doesn't follow this rule for whatever reason. He has a much larger, bulkier character model, which admittedly does complement his personality pretty well of being this hard-headed yet friendly guy, but at the same time, it's just a weird, jarring design choice that I also found distracting the entire game. It also doesn't help that you don't see another major character that plays a big role in the story use this body shape until literally the last chapter of the game. It makes him look like this big freak of nature amongst the rest of the cast and incredibly out of place. If anything, he also gave me Frankenstein's monster vibes too, between the pronounced unibrow and green clothes. I don't know, I guess like with the speaking animation issue, it's a detail that all things considered objectively took more work and would be a good design choice in any other game, but as a result of it being Minecraft, it just ends up as something that feels off and distracting the entire game. God, we're getting off topic again. Okay, so we're Jesse. We have a funny pig that makes this face sometimes named Ruben. We have Olivia and Axel, our two best buds in the whole wide world, and we're getting everything ready to go to EnderCon, some kind of building competition / convention we apparently suck at. Alright, an underdog tale, I can dig it. We're also introduced here to how the more gameplay part of the gameplay works. Whenever you're not in a cutscene or an action sequence, you're given free range to move to walk around a small area and interact / look / talk with stuff in your immediate vicinity. It feels a little like an adventure game, actually. Jesse's a Gabriel fanboy. Okay. We grab a sword, shears, flint and steel, ask Ruben to do a dragon roar, in which he responds he... Where the hell did they get these pig sounds? Oh, they got them from D. Bradley Baker, apparently. God, even I knew who that is. He does the animal voices, right? I looked that up on a whim just now. I did not expect an actual person to be behind this character. I kind of assumed his sound effects were just pitched actual pig noises or something. God, he looks stupid wearing that. Well, with that all taken care of, let's head off to that EnderCon thing. Although, first we need to actually decide what we're going to build.
What's wrong with my idea?
Nothing. It could be totally cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
We're building a creeper.
I think this is...
Those pop-ups I never took seriously, by the way. I think those are also a Telltale staple, too. Apparently Gabriel is also going to be a guest of honor at this thing, and the winner of the building competition gets to meet him, which is pretty cool. We have a little bit of a training montage where we collect the building materials and, Okay, that looks funny. They do that a few times throughout the games, just showing footage of characters mining, but it's really sped up, and, well... Okay, I get that mining in Minecraft is a pretty boring, tedious, task in all honesty, but this just looks kind of silly. If I remember correctly, there's even a couple instances where they do something similar, but it's like they're building something instead, and that even looks a little goofier. But okay, we're here, and oh look, characters who will become way more important later. These are the Ocelots. For right now, they're just kind of your generic early story bully group types.
They have a freaking beacon? Freaking beacon?
That's stained glass. They aren't just building a beacon. They're building a rainbow beacon.
Rainbow beacons. I don't know why, but I find it so weird whenever this game references somewhat niche game interactions like this and makes them a part of the story in some kind of way. Because rainbow beacons are a thing in Minecraft. It's a minor detail where if you take this light, a beacon shoots upwards, and then place a stained glass alongside its light, it then changes the color of the light. It's pretty cool. Although I don't believe there's, like, an official term for this interaction, it's mostly a fan-made name for it. And the game does this kind of thing quite a bit, actually, which, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but kind of cool as well.
You don't understand! This is a grinder!
Heck, if you want another really cool deep cut that we've technically seen already, the name Order of the Stone is actually a reference to what Notch was originally going to call Minecraft, or at the very least use as a tagline before he decided to just call it Minecraft. That is a really cool reference, actually. For as bad as the writing can get in this game at points, and for as hard to take seriously as the entire premise is, the inclusion of terminology and language like this kind of hints to me that the writers behind this actually are very familiar with Minecraft at the end of the day. Like, these are actual fans telling this story, and not just corporately hired writers told to make a generic story of a Minecraft theme for a quick cash grab, you know? But then again, this would be like the equivalent to if Nintendo released a Mario game with the backwards long jump and actually called it that in-game. Fans of a series create terms for things within their respective favorite universes like this all the time, and to see official material actually use those terms, it feels both validating but also strange to see. At least to me. Does anyone else feel that sort of way about this sort of thing? We're also introduced to Petra, voiced by Ashley Johnson. She's a mercenary, and, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of this character, although it's got nothing to do with the character itself, it's just, Okay, I don't think I've ever really talked about this in a video yet before, but, like, I don't like mercenaries in media. The idea of a character who will do anything within reason for money and will look badass while doing it sounds like it should be a super cool setup for a lawful neutral character, but what I personally find is often done with these tropes of characters is it's used as a crutch. Like, hey, if you need a character to do something pretty morally gray without painting them as an outright villain, just make them a mercenary, say they're doing it for money. Now you don't have to challenge their morals as much because, hey, we all need money to survive, right? Like, I don't know, I find it to just be too easy a modifier to just slot into a character. It's too convenient a lot of the times, and, truthfully, Petra is actually a really good example of this, actually, in terms of, like, what she does later in the chapter. I don't know. I don't want to say she's a badly written character, and her actress does a pretty good job of her, actually, but she is a character I didn't get much out of because her being a mercenary just made me less interested from the start for this reason. Especially since inevitably this led to me not talking to her as much or picking her when the game asked me to choose a character to do a story bit with. Although maybe the long player here might have hung out with her a little more, so my opinion could very well change in this playthrough. Alright then, let's start the buildering competition. Hey, let's make a Sukin handshake on the fly while we're at it.
Crafting areas for any reason. And please try not to damage each other on your way to the
God, this game is awkward. So we start building our creeper, and things are going pretty well, actually. Olivia flips a switch that causes it to launch fireworks, and a crowd comes to take a look. One of the Ocelots gets pissed off about this and breaks a block from another build, which releases some lava, which,
Oh no, Ruben's on fire!
We get a choice to either save the build or go after Ruben. Seems like a pretty obvious choice that we should go for the pig here.
Oof.
Oof? Wait a second, was that a reference to the old school Minecraft hurt sound? Probably not, but I can believe, right? We follow him into the woods and decide to split up so we can have a better chance of finding him. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like or subscribe. It'll help the channel become bigger. Thanks. Yeah, go support XK Games again. This video would probably not be possible without them. Are we going to be seeing those pop-ups throughout this entire thing, by the way? Oh, those will probably be very fun reminders of who I am eternally indebted to. We wander around for quite a bit, actually. Let me tell you, they really want to build suspense and have you question if the pig is dead or something here. We pass a burning tree, a small herd of other pigs get jump scared by a chicken, we find one of the burnt wings itself, Go through a cave for some reason, see a spider, come out of the cave, and oh, there he is. We might have wandered out too far too late, though, because monsters are starting to spawn. Okay, I actually kind of like how the zombies are animated in this game. Typically, they just walk statically with their arms raised forward, but here they move a bit more like traditional zombies. And unlike a lot of quote-unquote realistic interpretations of human movement in this game, I actually think they look kind of cool here. To jump ahead here, same deal with the spiders, and heck a lot of the mobs for that matter. They look more animalistic and unpredictable this way, and it serves to make them a lot more threatening. It's here we're also introduced to the game's first action sequence, which are, I hate these. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say that these are the worst parts of the game. Like, I don't know, I can muster all the bad writing and cringe you can throw at me, but when you give me something frustrating, that's where it starts to cross a line in my eyes, and wow, these get frustrating. They often have these really short, bad minigames that feel half-programmed, if that makes sense. I never feel like I'm doing these optimally, even when I do succeed at them. And secondly, they're riddled with quick-time events, even more than the game normally is. Telltale games have a lot of these all the time, which makes sense given their general structure, but they're especially frustrating here not only because the game just piles them on you with little breathing room, but also because these are the rare instances in the game where you can die, at which point you'll have to go back a bit and try again. That doesn't sound that bad until you realize that this game has some of the worst checkpointing I've ever seen in a modern game. We're going to put this topic on the back burner for now, but rest assured I'll explain more about why these are especially bad for a game like this later. Particularly when we get to a certain action sequence that completely drove me up the wall and actually made me want to stop playing. I mean, I powered through it eventually. Again, we'll talk more about these later. For the time being, though, just know that these suck. Our sword breaks while we're fending off the zombies, and one of them attacks Ruben, giving him a permanent black eye for the rest of the game. I didn't expect a permanent change to a major character's design so early. That sometimes happens in these games, just not that early. Oh, but don't worry though, because Jesse can apparently one-shot a zombie with his fist. Have you ever tried using your bare fist as a weapon in Minecraft? You can't. It doesn't work. I don't know why this, of all things, offends me the most of anything in this scene. Eventually, Petra comes out of nowhere to rescue us and takes us to this cool cave to refuge for a bit. While here we're told that her mercenary work has her going to the Nether to collect a wither skull.
There's this guy I'm meeting up with at EnderCon. He's gonna trade me a diamond for it.
A single diamond for a wither skull. Really? Dude, those things are kind of dangerous and a rare drop from them anyway. You probably could have bargained for something better there.
You just keep a crafting table down here?
What, you don't? That's like the most helpful block in the game. We have a moment with Petra, and she says she might be up to invite us to the Nether at some point. We also make a sword. Yes, X-Cage, that's how you make a sword. Actually, this crafting system is commonly praised for being kind of cool. I like it too. It's a pretty slick UI that gives you plenty of time to play around with whatever might be in your inventory at the current moment. The process is drawn out enough that it feels emotionally tense when it needs to be, but never to a point at which it feels annoying to do. And even gives you a helpful pop-up if you need it that tells you what you can make with your current items. You know, if you somehow are playing this game without knowing basic Minecraft crafting recipes.
Oh man,
Creeper!
Lucas. Creepers!
Oh geez, maybe that was foreshadowing.
Crap.
Was that a cuss word? In Minecraft? I don't know why that feels so weird to me. I mean, the game is rated E10 up for mild language, but it still feels a little out of character for this franchise. We're forced to jump off the bridge, which leads to the opening credits scene. It was a little late for that, but whatever. And we swim down to the riverbank back to EnderCon. Ruben's swim animation is really funny to me. Starting the next scene, we're back in town and talking more about that deal Petra's going to make. We quickly meet up with those two again before breaking apart once more to go do that trade with Petra. In a creepy alley. This'll go well. We end up meeting up with the guy alone.
The name's Jesse. What's it to you?
Oh my god, that was an intense read of that line. This is Ivor, the guy we're making the deal with. This is actually my favorite character in the game, but we're not going to find out why until, like, 4 chapters in later, so just bear with me here. He's voiced by Paul Rubens, who is mostly known for his work with, Okay, I don't know who I expected to be the voice behind my favorite character, but it certainly wasn't Pee Wee Herman. God, that guy must have some serious range if he can do roles like this, too. He ends up tricking us, so we take chase and... God, that run animation looks so dumb. We end up losing him, though, and from here we kind of just explore the entirety of EnderCon and meeting up with our friends while looking for him.
All right, I'll look. After I watch one more chicken get owned.
Get owned? Oh my god, that's like ancient Aranet speak. Our pig almost dies again. There's actually a bit of a puzzle here involving slime where you gotta... Oh, jeez! Okay, so we follow him and find ourselves in a creepy alchemy library basement. While looking for him or the skull, Axel steals a potion, and then by flipping a switch, we reveal... Oh, that's an unfinished wither. With a command block in the center. Okay, so... this is kind of cool, actually. What they're basically doing here is introducing an all-powerful thing into an already established universe that, at the same time, doesn't break the lore of said universe. Because command blocks are a thing in Minecraft. They're basically blocks you can place down that you can then input Java commands into to basically do whatever you want them to do. Although you're not able to acquire these through normal means. They're only available in creative mode, a game mode where you have free range to fly around, you're invincible, and can place blocks at your leisure. Basically a god mode if you want to just build for the fun of it or test stuff at your leisure without actually having to play the game like you normally do, or would have to worry about mobs like you would in survival mode, which is basically the complete opposite. You'll never even see one of these if you're doing a normal playthrough, which is most likely what this universe is set in given this line from Olivia.
I've never seen one of these before.
What the game has done here is basically found a way to be a bit meta without actually having to be meta, especially since it's right in the middle of something that you are super familiar with within Minecraft if you do know this game well. Oh, here we go! Where is he? Oh god! Okay, he's up there. Back up. Hold on. Another instant health. I'll do the regen too. Is he at half health? Is he spinning? You have to use a sword now. Okay. Oh no! Ah! You know the Wither is super dangerous, so, like, is this double dangerous? It's kind of brilliant in my opinion. This scene really piqued my interest when I first saw it, because predictably this block does become a major story detail later.
We came down here to find the skull. Well, we found it.
Right as we're about to leave, Ivor gets in and we gotta hide.
Over here, jerk!
Or we cannot hide, sure.
If you won't leave of your own volition, I'll happily remove you myself. Show our friends the door, will you?
God, I get what I was saying about liking how some of the mobs are animated in this game. You know, I once got one of these trapped in a soap bar for Christmas. He'll probably be out by the time I finish this video. What do you guys think? Leave your predictions below. Okay, so we get out just in time to Gabriel being introduced to an adoring crowd. That's Dave Fennoy playing him, by the way. Looking through his IMDb, he does a lot of roles. Not a lot I recognize per se, but of the ones I do, a common theme I notice is that he's a generally good go-to guy when you need someone with a deep, masculine, booming voice. Dare I say he might be one of the best voice performances in this game, to a point in which he even feels a little out of place.
You know, when Elgard and the dragon, like, what was her favorite food?
Bread. Next question.
That's actually one of the best jokes in the game. We try to enlist his help to investigate the scary monster Ivor is making in the basement when suddenly he comes out of nowhere to crash the party himself. They know each other apparently, and he leads on that Gabriel might not be so great as we thought. He ends up completing the Wither. Now, I knew what to expect at this point. Withers, you know, they're destructive, they shoot these, like, skull fireballs, they, like, whatever they kill turns into, like, a black rose or something. But wait, the Wither can't do that. Wait, what is that command block programmed to do exactly? Oh, that center head is freaky. Oh, dang, that super secret potion isn't even doing anything either. Oh, jeez, it's got a tractor beam, too. So, When I started this game, I don't know what I expected the big bad villain to be. Maybe the Ender Dragon, maybe some man versus creator allegory, maybe like the Illagers or something. No, it's this. A wither corrupted by a command block programmed to make it consume all. It's kind of neat. They turned, like, the only other boss in the game, at least at the time, into a borderline force of nature villain. Unfortunately, we got an action sequence here, like, a pretty long one, actually, but again, I'll talk about these later.
Hurry! Inside the temple! The inner chambers...
Whoa! That was a cool transition. We escape into Gabriel's temple and are about to escape even further into a nether portal, basically a portal to hell if you're not familiar with Minecraft, before we're given an amulet. Apparently it will help us find the Order of the Stone members, who will no doubt be able to help defeat this thing. Gabriel and Petra then get taken away by the Wither, and we're told to save one. This runner chose Petra. I probably chose Gabriel on my first playthrough. It looks like you have a chance to save both of them, but the runner fails a QuickTime event and then is thrown into the portal before he can save him. I've been told that that QuickTime event is apparently impossible, which is kind of interesting.
Where's Petra?
We did everything we could.
Oh yeah, have I mentioned Lucas at all yet in all of this? He was the leader of the Ocelots who got separated and is just kind of along for the ride right now, and he's going through a bit of a redemption arc. He's voiced by Scott Porter. He seems to do a lot of variety of stuff, typically live action, which makes me think that this has got to be one of his weirdest roles. Ivor somehow managed to make his way through the portal too, along with a tentacle that breaks the door. Well, I guess we're stuck here now.
Don't pretend you don't know, thief! You took my most valuable
Punch him?
potion.
Oh my god!
Boy.
Ivor will remember that. Alright, so he actually gives us some advice on how to get out of here before getting out himself, and we're left to deal with a ghast. Again, it's cool how these mobs are animated. We grab a minecart, which takes us on a pretty intense action sequence. Okay. That would have killed you. Those things freaking explode. Good God, to know Jessica can take 10 hits from those. See, this is another reason I hate the action sequences. The game has a very loose idea of what should and should not actually kill you. It borderline feels random sometimes. We eventually come across another portal that leads us back to the overworld. You know, I do think it's pretty creative that they use the nether here for something actual players use it for. Basically, a way to travel really quickly in Minecraft is to use the nether, because one step in the nether takes you like 8 steps in the overworld or something. Oh god damn it, more combat. Oh, wow. Watch out, Kjax, that zombie does the same amount of damage as an exploding fireball. We build a treehouse, take shelter for the night, have a heart-to-heart over cookies. Axel and Lucas have some drama, and then in the morning, we head out again and find that temple. As we enter, we actually get kind of a funny puzzle. Rootman hits a pressure plate that causes a bunch of dispensers to start firing arrows. Lucas then reckons that we can turn off this trap by hitting another pressure plate at the under end of the room, but we have limited materials to work with. While X-Cage makes a bow and arrow here to fire at the switch and weigh down the pressure plate, and that's clearly the obvious thing to make here, your materials also allow you to make a fishing rod, because a fishing rod's bobber can activate a pressure plate in Minecraft as well. I kind of like this actually. It feels almost like an Easter egg since it requires some not so obvious knowledge of the base game.
Ivor was a member of the Order of the Stone?
That's a pretty big plot twist. We find our way onto the roof of the building where we get a really annoying switch puzzle, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's not a hard puzzle per se, but it's just that the UI is extremely annoying. That leads to us discovering that the true usage of Gabriel's amulet is to show you the locations of the other Order of the Stone members. Our mission is now clear. Reunite the Order, as together they're sure to find a way to defeat the Witherstorm. We're given a choice here, and this might be one of the biggest choice-branching pathways in the entire game. You can either go with Axel to find Magnus, the TNT guy, or you can go with Olivia to find Ellegaard, the Redstone lady. When I played this, I went with Olivia here because I've always been a big fan of Redstone myself, and I kind of prefer Olivia as a character anyway. And with one last shot of the Witherstorm on the horizon, Chapter 1 comes to an end. God, that was only the first chapter. So far, this game was nothing like what I expected it to be. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, what it could have even been in the first place, aside from maybe a retelling of how you complete Minecraft, but in a more epic fashion. But so far, we have drama, betrayal, an original villain, an original cosmic horror, and it's even gotten a little meta. Now, given it's not the best written story in the world, and some of its major players are pretty annoying or unlikable, but for someone like me, this was enough of a hook. I needed to know where this was going. My good idea, bad execution senses were tingling, which, from experience, tends to hook me more than safe but good writing anyway. Regardless, let's go on and start Chapter 2. So, when I sat down to start writing the script for Part 2 of the video and loaded up the long play again, I was a little confused. Just watch this. That's a hard cut. I didn't show this, but in X-Cage's footage, they chose to go after Ellegaard of Olivia, although when Chapter 2 actually starts in the playthrough, they're going with Axel. Like, they're doing the story route different to what they chose. Did something get spliced incorrectly here? I'm just a little confused. I'm actually here for it, though, because as I said in the first part, I myself chose Ellegaard, so what we're going to be talking about in this video is actually a completely new thing to me. Another thing that confuses me is that I could have sworn there was a recap of what happened in Chapter 1 here too. Like, look, here's one for a future chapter.
Previously on Minecraft Story.
There's actually a pretty good reason for why these are here, and I wanted to talk about them anyway real quick, but Minecraft Story Mode was actually released in episodic parts. It didn't release all at once. The first chapter released in October 2015, with the 8th and final one releasing in September of 2016, which is a time frame of about a year. That's not to say that these re-releases were exactly uniform, though. Like, the first 5 episodes released on a monthly basis, with the 6th one releasing 3 months after that, and then the next month was 7, and then the 8th episode was like 2 months after that. Telltale games releasing episodically is a normal thing, and even releasing ununiformly is too, to a certain extent. The reason for it here is that they were almost done with Episode 5 by the time Episode 1 released, making releasing them on a clean monthly basis easy. And then from there, they kinda made more chapters based mostly on community feedback, which isn't a half-bad way to do that sort of thing, even if it does lead to some uneven, release schedule like this. It was at this point, too, that I noticed that every chapter has, their own individual director and writers that are, shuffled around quite a bit. That might actually be a major reason why the tone can be kind of all over the place and why certain characters don't seem to be written consistently. Although that could be normal for all I know. I kind of assume the production of Telltale stuff is more akin to television as opposed to video games, and that isn't exactly something I know a lot about. But regardless, let's actually start Chapter 2. We begin back in the Nether, utilizing its fast travel mechanic once more in order to get to Boomtown, Magnus's home. And we start with some action. A gas shows up again and breaks the rails, a few more show up and try to take us down too.
Why does it hate us so much?
Again with the weird damage numbers and consistency with the damage, Jesse doesn't flinch that much of an explosive fireball again and is able to one-shot a ghast of a bow. No. Axel realigns the minecart and we travel the rest of the way to the Boomtown portal.
Boomtown?
Yeah! Boomtown!
Okay, I think you can dye text on a sign like that, but I'm not 100% certain if it can be made in multiple colors like that. And if it is, it's a feature that was added a lot later than this game. It almost makes it look like this place loves to party, on top of having explosions. I've actually never seen this part of the game before, and I'm really curious what this could be like. What is this music? I mean, that is a town that was certainly boomed. This place looks like a borderline war zone. Griefers. I think that's another term that kind of originated from the fan community, although it was so long ago that it now is just a normal word people use for just folks who destroy other people's stuff in online games, and it's one Minecraft itself even uses, even in just official ruling stuff. Our amulet begins to glow, which actually lets us know exactly where Magnus is. In this giant obsidian tower, at least I think that's obsidian, although this gets the attention of a bunch of the town's residents who claim to be looking for Magnus. One of them steals the amulet, which then gets stolen again, and then again, and again. Hey look, that guy is pillaring. We basically go on a big wild goose chase to get the amulet back.
Boy, howdy, you are one weird cat.
One of the bandits gets name dropped too.
Of course, not sure what I'll do when I get there, but that's future Nora's problem.
I don't think this character appears again. Can you do stuff with her later? I don't know. God, when I played this game, I am glad I did Eligard's town instead. Her area was a lot more chill. You just kind of talked to a bunch of people building cool redstone stuff. But in this one, it's basically one big action sequence. It has it all, too. Like, basically everything I dislike about an action sequence is here. It's prolonged, there's countless QuickTime events that come out of nowhere. There's a point where you pass off the amulet to Axel and then start throwing eggs at these people. Like, this place just really is nasty by comparison. Eventually we meet up with Axel at that big tower. I love this detail that he has an arrow in his leg and no one mentions this at all. Arrows can stick out of your body in actual Minecraft too, and it can look pretty funny. This booby-trapped roof, I guess I did find it a bit odd how nothing seems to activate here, but apparently during this decision, if you hold on to the amulet, you have to run through it yourself, and apparently Jesse can get nicked by an arrow here and it will stick into his leg for the rest of the scene as well. So that's kind of funny. We get in and, we fall into a hidden chamber full of traps with Magnus in the corner of the room too, voiced by Corey Feldman. I don't really recognize any of his roles personally, but I am impressed by his resume, as he's been doing all sorts of acting, live action or otherwise, since the 70s, even being a child actor in movies like Gremlin. We then begin a pretty intense section where we try to convince Magnus to come with us as he activates TNT traps. He simply does not trust us. In fact, he doesn't trust anyone. We eventually convince him, though, and he gives us some context as to why he isn't so trusting. And it's all because of the people of the town he runs. Basically, if anyone here can find him and eliminate him, they become the new king of Boomtown. He refuses to leave until this happens, however, and therefore challenges us to the Death Bowl.
What's the Death Bowl?
This is the Death Bowl!
That's an okay transition, I guess. This is basically a one-on-one competition to see who can grief the other more destructively. But here he wants us to help him, like, fake a loss so he can come with us. This part here actually bothers me a little. He's clearly supposed to be talking privately with us about how we're actually going to do this, but he's clearly using an outdoor voice.
And we'll call it a finish, alright?
Okay, something about TNT. Awesome!
This really confused me. He really should be, like, whispering here or something. Probably just some bad voice direction here. We pick our materials. Ruben really wants us to pick pink wool, but XK just picks stone and makes him very sad. I really wonder why he wanted us to pick pink wool. Were we gonna make a pig if we pick that or something? This part's kind of fun. We throw eggs at each other, and then we use slime and pistons to launch TNT at one another. We basically make TNT cannons, another thing that kind of was popularized in the fan community. I can't help but feel that these blocks wouldn't exactly interact in this sort of way when set up in this sort of way in actual Minecraft, but I don't know, that doesn't matter too much here. Like, just saying TNT cannons is kind of cool. Magnus is getting a little too into the competition, however, and I think he's actually trying to kill us now. We gotta think fast. Also, I don't know if I like this detail or not, but to emphasize that he's going a little crazy, they put, like, the actual fire texture over his eyes. Like, I get what they're going here, but it looks a little weird. Our friends decide to help us out. Ruben gets on top of the tower just to get launched off. Well, Axel throws us some more materials from below.
Got you an arrow for your bow. I think it's enchanted or something.
Most notably, an enchanted arrow that we used to blow up his whole contraption. I actually think it's pretty clever that they specifically said that it's an enchanted arrow, because while arrows don't normally interact with TNT in this kind of way, they don't like set them off, they do if you give it a fire enchantment. I noticed lava on the machine as well, and another, like, detail they could have done here is have you shoot the arrow through the lava into the TNT, because I think that would also activate it. We end up winning, although just as Jesse gives a victory speech and the entire town turns on us, I mean, we kind of saw that coming, right? Like, I mean, whoever becomes king is the person who destroys the current king, you know? But then the Witherstorm appears on the horizon, and we all need to start getting out of here.
You'll regret messing with Boomtown! Go!
Starting the next scene, we make it back to the temple, Lucas greets us, and apparently Petra managed to show up as well. Okay, watching the scene, I'm actually noticing a pretty big difference. It's been a few months since my own personal playthrough, but I remember Gabriel being here instead. I'm gonna guess that this is different because XCage saved Petra during Chapter 1 when I didn't. And speaking of things that are different, when we get back to the roof, we notice Olivia talking with Ellegaard. She went off on her own little adventure to find her and bring her here. In my playthrough, when I actually went with her to get her, upon returning, the exact opposite happened. Axel went on an adventure of his own and found Magnus. So both of these characters will show up here eventually, as the plot needs to converge at some point.
What is she doing here?
Also notable here is that Magnus and Ellegaard don't like each other. Ellegaard is also voiced by Grey Griffin, who does a lot of voice acting roles, typically for cartoons. The role that popped out to me the most is that she's consistently been the voice of Daphne from Scooby-Doo since around 2000.
It was kind of crazy, actually. I went to Redstonia, and
Redstonia.
there were all these incredible
You know, this is kind of interesting too. As you'd expect, if you actually went with Olivia here, then the entire chapter would be devoted to her area, where you get to meet her people and get to know her better. Olivia even hypes up this Redstonia quite a bit, and the reason for this is obvious. They want you to play this chapter again. Yeah, replay value. And deep down, I kind of believe wanting to experience Chapter 2 twice is intended, because from this point forward, Magnus and Ellegaard actually don't get too much character development. For the rest of the game, the other one you didn't go after is just kind of going to come along for the ride and just be kind of there, leading you to get curious and wanting to learn more about them. It's a really smart way to go about this sort of thing. You know, before I move on, I figure we might as well see Redstonia, right? I mean, why not? Let's talk about it. I kind of prefer that route anyway, after all of this. Although, XCage didn't show Redstonia in their playthrough, so, I kind of had to look on YouTube for, like, another playthrough of someone doing this, and I honest to God could not find many long players that actually went this route. I did find this one person named Bin. Whenever I use long play footage, I typically like to let the person know first, but I'm gonna be honest, the person has not uploaded in 7 years, and I can't find, like, a Twitter for the person, so I hope it's okay for me to use this footage. From experience, long players never really seem to mind when you use their footage for video essays as long as you give credit, but, like, if by chance you do come across this and like, do have an issue with this, feel free to reach out. We'll figure something out, I guess, but yeah. Go subscribe to Bin. In the meantime, I am very thankful you have this playthrough on the internet. Anyway, this route starts literally the exact same way. We're traveling there in a minecart. When we fall off some broken tracks and are attacked by a ghast, we can use a sword or bow to get rid of it while our friend fixes the minecart, and then we just go the rest of the way, except just replace Axel with Olivia. And when I say literally the exact same, I really do mean the exact same scenario. Like, heck, I think even the location you're in is identical, which kind of makes me wonder, the implication is that they're going in different directions, right? I don't know why. This scene is kind of weird. Then we get to something interesting. For one, Redstonia isn't ravaged by griefers at all times. It's an actual small town of a bit of a grassy and sandstone aesthetic. Two very opposing styles that work pretty well together. We immediately see Ellegaard too, giving a speech to her people. She says she's going to lock herself in this big temple to concentrate while she works on her latest invention, and that she will not be seeing anyone until further notice because of this. What she is working on precisely is a command block. Instantly, this is a lot more interesting because we know of the command block and how dangerous it is, so there's already some intrigue on why she would want to make one. We talk to a guy who ships our amulet up to Eligard, and then we see him disable the machine that locked her in said temple by removing a repeater from the contraption that was used to do that. From here, our goal is to basically undo this by making our own repeater or finding a new one. Walking around, we meet a bunch of people working on different redstone contraptions. Apparently there's a thing going on right now where whoever can make something that impresses her the most, that person will become her new protege. Something really cool about this section is that every contraption featured here is an actual thing people from all across the fan community make. Everything from the super practical to just random stuff people make for fun. Such as, you know, how that guy shipped up our amulet. Well, he did so using an item elevator, which is an item, or which is like a redstone contraption a lot of people often make to just like bust items around their bases. There's also a guy working on a walking machine. There's a disco-themed one. There's a lady working on a machine that launches cows. There's a TNT cannon, a flying machine, and a... Okay, I think Jesse straight up kills the operator of the flying machine. Oh my god. And we also have an auto farm. My favorite type of redstone contraption. I'm really into automated farming in this game. It's really cool to see all of these interpreted in a game like this. While talking to everyone, they give us redstone ingredients which we use to make that repeater. We operate the machine to open Eligard's temple and go in. Once inside, we see her redstone laboratory. The actual entrance to this is a piston door, which is really cool. Those are a really popular and really aesthetically pleasing build people like to make. When we get to her, Olivia faints of excitement. Hey, by the way, she is really fun to watch during this chapter. How she fangirls over Eligard is really cute. We help her make a command block. I think the setup she has here is kind of cool, actually. She's trying to build one of these by essentially mashing random items on a crafting table together. It feels a little random and certainly isn't something you can do in actual Minecraft, but it definitely feels like a method that would create something powerful if it were possible. But just as it looks like we're about to get somewhere, we get a Witherstorm jump scare. So yeah, like with Boomtown, it ends with the Witherstorm showing up and destroying everything and us having to escape. And then we go back to the temple again, and everything plays out exactly as it did before, but instead Axel is now here with Magnus instead. We all start talking about how to defeat the Witherstorm when Eligard floats the idea of finding the final member of the Order, Soren, who apparently has some super weapon that can defeat it once and for all.
The Formidabomb.
Yeah. I've heard all about the F-bomb before.
The F-bomb.
F-bomb.
Thanks, game. It's short for Formidabomb, though they will happily use its more vulgar term, as it's probably the closest you will ever get to seeing an official Minecraft thing say a heavy swear, and that's kind of funny. Using the map again, we notice that Soren's light is now available, although Ivor's is appearing as well, and he seems to be traveling towards him. Well, I guess we have our next destination, then.
A slight tangent. What's the deal with your friend Olivia? I appreciate her enthusiasm, but she can be a little...
That dumb smile, I love Olivia. Monsters come out, we got another action sequence. God, does this look fun? Look at how awkward the swinging is. You know, a detail I kind of like here is that if you look in the background, you can see Magnus using TNT to kill mobs. Man, this really is the one thing he knows how to do. During another pane, you can also see the Witherstorm way in the background, but no one notices or brings it up for some reason. Weird. That almost feels like an oversight. The Witherstorm appearing in the background here is apparently a glitch. We eventually make it to Soren's house. This place looks super cool, by the way. We fall down a pit and find ourselves in the middle of a big field of Endermen. I gotta say, while I've said time and again how I like how the mobs are animated in this game, my absolute favorite example is the Endermen. Their proportions already make them look like horror monsters, and heck, they're literally based off of one if you know, like, the lore behind this thing. But their more creepy movements and how their limbs and body can actually bend now and not make them look as rigid, it makes them look, like, really freaky and creepy, and I really like them a lot.
Hear that? I think Ruben is trying to get our attention.
Ugh! Oh, that actually made me jump. Yeah, a thing about Endermen is that they're actually harmless unless you attack them or look them in the eye, so I guess something like that had to happen. Thankfully, there's a river right next to us, as these things have an inherent weakness to water. You know, now that I think about it, is there a lore reason for why they don't like water? That just kind of seems like a detail about them that, like, is never really explained. I don't know. We wash up on Magnus and Ellegaard. Okay, I gotta tell you, because it's really starting to bother me as I write this script. I hate her name. I mean, I like her as a character, but I swear every time I've written her name in the script so far, I've written it differently, and it's really starting to get annoying. I don't know, how many words, let alone names, have two A's back to back like this? I never feel like I'm spelling it correctly. It always feels like I'm adding one extra letter than I need to. Apparently it is an actual name. It's a Danish name, which might explain why my American ass has never heard of it before and why I have a hard time processing it. But anyway, we wash up on these two having a falling out, leaving just our main gang to split up and continue into the temple. At this point, Petra wants to discuss something private with us. When she was grabbed by the Witherstorm, it apparently gave her this dark spot on her armpit that's slowly spreading and making her feel sick. At this point, when I had Gabriel, he also revealed the same thing to me here. It's now I'm remembering what actually happened to Petra in my own playthrough, and I'm now wondering if that's what's going to happen to Gabriel in this playthrough. Before we can talk too much about it though, Jesse falls down a pit and makes his way to this beautiful library. It's here we run into Ivor again and have an action sequence where we battle him. You know, one thing I actually really like about the cast of this game is that every character tends to have a really distinct fighting style. Actual combat in Minecraft can be pretty boring in one note, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there are a lot of options for combat, but most of the time they're pretty underwhelming and, like, tend to be overshadowed by just using the sword strategically, by, like, jumping and, like, hitting critical hits and stuff. But here, they get creative with it, and it gives a lot of characters unique fighting styles that actually exist within the main game. You saw this earlier with Magnus's TNT, like he used TNT to fight mobs when that is normally a horrible idea in like actual Minecraft, but this is the scene that really made me realize how cool this actually was. Ivor uses potions in his fighting style. Specifically, at this point, we see him use an invisibility potion, a speed potion, and I think a potion of weakness. He even throws splash potions. This affinity for potion was even foreshadowed too by his creepy basement being littered with them and him briefly using one back in the Nether. I don't know, I just think it's cool. They really could have just made every character fight the same way of a sword, but they went an extra mile to give each character their own strategies that add a lot to their personalities. And heck, even when they do use the generic sword, they do stuff as simple as giving them a different type of sword or having them hold or swing it in a different way. It's incredibly cool. Just as everyone finally shows up, Ivor throws a slowness potion.
Have you ever seen the effects of a splash potion of slowness?
What?
Okay, game. Okay, that's just... That actually is just so dumb. He gets away. End of chapter. So, there's actually a couple things I would like to mention before starting Chapter 3. Firstly, these screens. One of these appears for Chapter 1 as well, but I forgot to talk about it. Basically, when you make a major decision in this game, on top of it affecting your personal story, that choice will also be logged and then uploaded to some server. And at the end of each chapter, the game will use this information from players all around the world to show you the ratio of players who took each of the chapter's major decisions. This is extremely cool, and apparently a mainstay of Telltale stuff as well. It's incredibly interesting to see how your own playthrough stacks up against the rest of the world. How much in the majority or minority are you? Where do you personally differ from the norm? This screen might even clue you into routes you didn't even know were possible. It's pretty neat. Similar to how Ellegaard runs Redstonia and Magnus runs Boomtown, Gabriel actually runs the opening town of the game. I don't recall that's ever mentioned anywhere, but apparently that is the case. Although this town doesn't have an official name for whatever reason, but most fans call it EnderCon, after the name of the event it runs. Picking up right where we left off, we're locked in the library after fighting Ivor, and our amulet is telling us that the way to Soren is straight down. We drop into a cave, get harassed by some bats, which,
Bats! Ah! Why are we screaming?
everyone makes a big deal about for some reason. Bats are like the most harmless mob in this game. They're more annoying than anything else. When we reach the end of this cave, we realize that it's not a cave at all, and that it drops off into a giant chasm full of other cave exits that drop off into a giant crusher trap. It's here that Olivia suddenly realizes what this is. A mob farm.
This is a grinder!
Or a grinder, as she calls it. I've never heard someone call it a grinder prior to this game, actually. I thought mob farm was the term for this kind of thing. I don't know, maybe it's called a grinder here just because it sounds more threatening. Also, this is another example of terminology you typically only see in the fandom. Mob farms are basically structures you can make that will automatically kill monsters and collect their drops for you. So Soren's into mob farming. That's kind of interesting.
Creepers!
Oh man, another action sequence. Also, is it just me or does this Creeper's animation freeze here? I actually kind of like this opening sequence. Inside of a mob farm is a pretty unique place to have a battle. Love when the game does that sort of thing, just incorporate things you would only see in Minecraft into the game's set pieces. A structure literally built this way wouldn't actually work as a mob farm, to be perfectly honest, but it's heavily based off of one that would. Specifically the kind where you build a giant dark structure that mobs will spawn inside of, since mobs spawn in the dark, and then you use a combination of redstone and water to push them into either a trap or to just outright kill them with fall damage. And given that this probably wouldn't make for a pretty fun battle arena, they clearly took some creative liberties here, and it made for a pretty memorable part of the game to me. This shot is kind of funny too. You know, I think I did that reaction command in Kingdom Hearts 2 at some point. Eventually we get washed into the Grinder's loot room and... Wait a minute, that thing kills slimes? We didn't see any slimes in there. Now that I think about it, I don't think we see slimes at all in this game, despite seeing slime balls multiple times and even using one for a puzzle earlier. Huh, weird. That's kind of sad, actually. I really like the slime enemies. They're just goofy and funny, and the slime balls are, like, extremely useful for, like, redstone stuff. Hey, speaking of the Grinder's loot, why is there a diamond down here? There isn't a mob in the game that drops diamonds. Eventually, some monsters drop down to the chasm and chase us into an ender portal.
Jump!
Oh, that's freaky how it just cuts the music and everything. I kind of like how the entry from the portal is just sudden as well. Everyone just kind of no-clips into the end like it's the frickin' backrooms or something, I guess, which actually isn't too different from how it happens in the game. Chapter 3 is all about the end, an endless dimension of desolate floating islands inhabited by Endermen. It is also the homeworld of the final boss, but if you remember the lore dump from the beginning, that thing is already dead, so this place is even more desolate than usual. I quite like the end, how it's portrayed in this game. Something about this place has always felt very liminal to me. I did mention backrooms like a second ago, you know, if that makes sense. Heck, now that I think about it, the end just kind of does feel like some kind of backrooms level, and I, for one, am always up for backrooms lore, and story mode really leans into the horror of this place.
Stuff like that doesn't work in the Nether. Probably not the end, either.
Oh, that is interesting that they reference that mechanic. Whenever you bring a compass into the Nether or the End, all it will ever do is swing around and be generally unhelpful. It never crossed my mind, but I guess the amulet would count as some sort of compass, so... yeah, let's say that checks out. I mean, it's an item original to this game, so I guess they can make up the lore whenever they want. And I kind of like that they, like, incorporate it into the lore you know of a different item, or, like, a mechanic you know of a different item.
Face it, Jesse. We might never find this guy.
There he is.
Well, fine then. I guess he's just right there. We follow him up this massive staircase and find ourselves in... Oh, this is surreal, kind of creepy, yet kind of beautiful at the same time. It kind of reminds me of that wool level from Psychonauts 2. The implication here is that Soren has gone between just the underground and the end for so long that he misses the overworld, and built this to try and at least replicate it in some kind of way and not go crazy, I guess. Oh cool, you can pet the pig in Minecraft story mode. Again with him in pink wool. At this point, we gotta walk around, exhaust everyone's dialogue, and solve this minor puzzle that will give us access further into this place. Well, I say it's a puzzle, but it's literally just walk around, find 3 switches, and hit a button. Further in, we get some more normal-looking rooms. It kind of looks like a big dining hall, to be perfectly honest, and then we get to this big study of a jukebox playing message logs in the corner. Looking around, we find an Enderman costume that we put on and theorize that Sora must be trying to train the Enderman to build something. Also, speaking of the jukebox, you can actually play a lot of Soren's records here, but X-Cage doesn't. There's some interesting lore in here, actually. We head outside thinking that's where he must be and start trying to get his attention. The best way to do so would probably be to actually build the thing he wants to see the Enderman build. This part here actually creeped me out quite a bit. So, Endermen can pick up blocks and place them down. It's something you don't see very often, but it's a mechanic they can very much do. Here, Jesse needs a clay block to actually build the structure, and this Enderman is holding said block, and shows no signs of wanting to put it down. This presents a dilemma. In the main game, once an Enderman picks up a block, there's no real way to get it to drop it manually without killing it or just waiting for it to put it down. And well, we clearly can't do that since they're super dangerous here. Jesse then gets the idea to just try and take it from him. This is way more tense than it has any right to be. It's something you can't actually do in the game involving a very dangerous monster, and it left me guessing what exactly it would do. Turns out it makes the Endermen start to freak out, but it doesn't anger them, which is definitely a positive. Although it does make the rest of this area incredibly tense. Upon completing the structure, we get bonked and wake up back in the study. There he is, voiced by John Hodgman, who's kind of an everyman. He's done writing, comedy, acting, and voice work for both live action and cartoons. How I definitely put it is that his Wikipedia is longer than his IMDb, if that makes sense. Although from what I can tell, this is his only video game performance. I don't know why, but his voice sounds oddly familiar to me. I feel like I have heard him something before, but just can't put my finger on it or find it on the IMDb.
I've always known they needed me, but I was never sure if they wanted me. It's lonely down here without your friends.
I kind of feel bad for this guy, to be perfectly honest. He's lonely in the end and just wants to be friends with people again. He starts singing for some reason, Jesse's animations break and everyone runs in, and the Endermen start invading Soren's home.
They've never been inside before. You've altered their behavior.
Okay, let's go.
You know, I kind of relate to this guy in that sort of way too. I too love to have everything meticulously planned out and tend to get pretty distressed when things go wrong. These things have gone hostile, though, so it's time to escape.
Phew. Try not to die.
Remember that detail about Endermen earlier where I said that they hated water? We have to use that to our advantage here by breaking the base of these fountains so they overflow.
We're gonna die.
What a dick, what was that about?
Who's gonna die?
When we reach the replica room again, it's swarming with Endermen, so we flip a switch that begins to flood the room. So much so that we gotta swim to the exit. And then we... Oh, okay, I guess we can just use our imagination for how they got out of the rest of the way. Also, how much water was in that trap? Jesus Christ. The monsters are still here, however, although Soren tells us to throw a switch that creates a bunch of golems to take them out for us. Pretty cathartic to see. God, can you imagine if you could do that with actual golems? Oh yeah, speaking of golems, here's how that soap from earlier is looking. Yeah, he's gonna be out by the time I'm done with this video essay at this rate. Soren grabs the F-bomb, or I guess it's not the F-bomb quite yet, it's instead something called the Super TNT, that we combine with normal gunpowder to make the F-bomb, of which Jesse grabs.
Oh dear. Oh, I was afraid of this. With the end underwater, the Enderman...
Wait, the entire end is underwater? Wait, how much water was in that trap? What? We head outside and... Oh, hey, there they are. Wait, what are they doing out here? Well, it's convenient because the Witherstorm is also right outside, and, it's gotten bigger.
Remember, once the Formida bomb is crafted, it'll explode in a matter of seconds. It means whoever...
That was a long pause. Jesse volunteers to be the one to make the F-bomb, and both Eligard and Magnus volunteer to lend us their armor. You can pick whichever one you want here. Whatever armor you take here, Jesse will then be wearing for quite a while actually, and then the person whose armor you took will be in a more casual outfit from then on, and they both look pretty cool. It kind of makes me wonder what Soren or Gabriel's casual outfit looks like. Well, apparently that kind of exists. In the Bedrock version of Minecraft, which... Apologies if I get some terms wrong here, I'm exclusively a Java player personally. Yeah, there are two major versions of Minecraft. I'm not explaining them. But anyway, in Bedrock version, a skin pack for Minecraft Story Mode exists. Basically for like a few bucks, I guess, you can purchase a collection of skins based off various characters from the game. There's even multiple variants of many characters, which is pretty cool. For example, we have all 6 player avatars of Jesse, Olivia, and Axel have not only their default designs, but their armored ones too. And oh, look at that! Armored Magnus, Casual Magnus, Armored Ellegaard, Casual Ellegaard, and here we have Armored Soren and Casual Soren. So yeah, apparently he wears a purple suit when he's not wearing the armor. Strangely, there's no Casual Gabriel in this pack though, which can only lead me to believe that he just never takes the armor off. I don't know, man, I like little subtle, like, clothing outfit design changes like that. We put the crafting table down, start to build the bomb before we get tractor beamed away. Ellegaard gets thrown back, and while suspended in the air, we make the thing anyway. We kick it into the storm, our gang hooks us with a fishing pole so we can be pulled to safety, and the bomb detonates. When we wake up, before us is... That is gnarly. It's got a ribcage and everything. That actually looks really gruesome for what I expect to see in a Minecraft thing could get away with. But not everyone survived.
You fought valiantly, my friend.
You and I both know my fight is over.
And you could probably guess this yourself, but if you choose Magnus's armor instead, he would be the one dying here instead. We rush into the remains of the Witherstorm to help people, because apparently it didn't actually kill them. I actually found this kind of funny, but the 3 people Jesse directly helps here are literally recolors of each other. Thank you, balding generic villager. When we get to the center, we find the command block powering the thing still intact. It turns back on, tries to suck us in before Gabriel comes out of nowhere to save us. But something looks off with him. His eyes are a pastel purple, his skin is pale, he doesn't quite know what's going on or who he is. It's as if he's zombified or something.
Who's Gabriel?
That's the least of our problems though, as the Witherstorm not only reawakens, but splits into 3. And that's where the chapter ends. How in the world are we gonna deal with this? Well, before we begin, can you believe this man predicted armor trims? As I was working on this, Mojang introduced this really cool new feature to the game where you can customize your armor by adding patterns to them. Genuinely an extremely cool feature, and a long overdue one in my opinion, especially as someone who's played Terraria and has seen like insane armor customization in a game like this before. For a game all about player expression, I always found it so strange how when it came to armor customization in Minecraft, there's no way to change the appearance of the best set in the game. So basically covering everybody's cool personalized skins were the same factory default light blue disjointed bulky plates, which then became even worse when those factory default bulky plates became like late 2000s gray. I love this change though, actually extremely cool. But below the tweet where they announced this, so many people, including myself, suddenly went, wait, does this mean you can make story mode style armors in the actual game now? You and 3% of players gave Ruben a high 5. Why did so few people give Ruben a high 5? Something I forgot to mention was, where were the shulkers? These are enemies that can only be found in the end, and I've probably never mentioned this in a video before, but the shulkers are actually my favorite Minecraft mob. I love their design, the items they dropped you can craft into among the most useful items in the entire game, and I think how they interact with the player is infinitely creative. They don't melee you to death or shoot you with damaging projectiles, but instead fire these pellets that cause you to float upwards for a few seconds, after which you fall and can take fall damage. They try to kill you with fall damage, and fighting them can get really frantic as you try to juggle damaging them between landing in the safest way possible and disabling their wobbly shots so they can't stack this effect onto you. Fighting them feels like a puzzle, a battle based not just on who hits the hardest, as encounters with them also ask you to pay more attention to your surroundings, keep track of multiple facets at once, and heck, if you're really creative, you might even find ways to use their bizarre projectiles to your advantage. They don't appear in story mode for some reason, even though they come from the end, and I couldn't tell you why. What in the world was I thinking here? Shulkers didn't exist until after this game came out. Yeah, I just didn't do my research there. Chapter 4 begins as of talking to Gabriel underneath the reawakened Witherstorm, and he's talking like he doesn't remember anything. Probably something we should worry about, but for right now, we just need to get out of here. And it looks like the fastest way will be to commandeer some horses, and then we enter the worst part of the game. Remember when I talked about how there was a specific action sequence where I would explain why I hate these things so much? We are here. This singular scene frustrated me to no end. Took me like a freaking half hour to do all on its own. Almost made me put the game down entirely, and even after I did complete it, it kind of tainted how I simply played the game from here forward. Let's dive in. So, not much special goes on in this scene from a story perspective. Our characters exchange some quips, we ride through some monsters. It controls pretty badly, but justifiably bad considering Jesse clearly has never ridden a horse before. You can bonk these enemies if they get in your way, but the range on when you can hit them feels a tad random. And I swear sometimes the prompt for it doesn't come at all, which can easily get you killed. Not a good start. We exchange some more lines. The second part has us weaving between tractor beams. The hitboxes on these are frustrating to say the least. I swear XCage runs straight through one of them here. It just feels very off. We also have to do some jumps, although you're given a lot of time for these. We exchange a couple more lines, the Enderman gets zipped up into the tractor beam, and then... Did you have enough time to register what just happened? Okay, so XCage Hail Marys this on their first try for some reason, but when I played this for the first time, I died here. And do you want to guess where you respawn from?
Come on, horses!
At the very beginning of this entire sequence. This entire sequence is about 4 minutes long, by the way. This might not sound that bad just saying it like that, but hear me out. The hardest part of this is when they throw the last section at you right at the end. It's when the storm directly attacks you with its tentacles, and it does so like 5 or 6 times in a row, all of which have extremely strict timings and have different button prompts to actually do them without dying. This part is about 3 minutes in, and if you fail just a single one of these, you have to do everything preceding this once more. Let's say you fail this 3 times. That's 9 minutes of you having to replay this section. Die 6 times, that's suddenly pushing near 20. Now, I love hard games. Hell, I've played plenty of challenging encounters before where each attempt can take upwards to like 3 to 4 minutes. I've never gotten this emotional over a platformer before. I did it! Oh my god! Even before some sort of desperation attack, or the hardest part being right at the end. But the thing that makes this uniquely frustrating is that this is the exact identical 3-minute stretch, all for a chance at this final stretch with the tentacles. There's no way to optimize or experiment with your run. The section isn't even fun or engaging to begin with, you're just hitting QTEs. And I find 3 minutes is a perfect kind of length where you can legit forget this hard part is coming up and it just sneaks up on you, leading to another retry. Oh yeah, and on top of that, now this might be because I was playing the Switch version because I know Switch ports of stuff can be a little dumpy, but I swear there's input lag here too on top of all of this, so heck, sometimes even when you do hit the buttons correctly, you'll fail anyway. I eventually got annoyed enough with this that I actually tried looking into solutions. First, I wondered if maybe there was a way to skip cutscenes or sequences, which I know sounds like blasphemy in a game that's 99% story like this, but I figured maybe it might throw you some kind of bone here. Nothing helped. Nothing at all could be found. Then I looked into maybe if this game has accessibility or difficulty options. A game like this has got to have something to help with that, right? Maybe you could make the checkpointing more lenient, or there's a way to set all QTEs to 1 input, or like make the game pause when they come up, or disable them entirely. No, nothing there either. So if you just physically can't do these, I guess you're shit out of luck. I grew up in an era before the ability to skip cutscenes was kind of the norm in video games, and this entire sequence, genuinely made me feel like I was right back there all over again, and really not in a good way. But here I'd argue it's even worse, because at least with something like, say, this battle from Arc the Lad Twilight of the Spirits that took me a million tries as a kid, or There's No Way You're Taking Kyrie's Heart, it's just a cutscene that you can just watch or mash through. You can go take a piss or check your emails while you wait for it to be over or something. Heck, I remember as a kid I would actually do homework in between these sections. But here, due to there being QTEs throughout the entire thing, it basically requires your full undivided attention at all times for every single time you retry this. You know what I eventually had to do to get through this without pulling my hair out? Pause buffering. When the camera was swinging in such a way that I felt a QTE was about to come up, I would start mashing the pause button until the button prompt appeared, and then I could mash that button as I unpaused. And this section frustrated me so much that this is something I continue to do for the rest of the game. Anytime someone pulled out a sword or the music would get intense or get ready to run, my hand would go directly to that pause button, just waiting, because at any moment I would then need to press something or else risk having to retry upwards of minutes of progress all over again. It actively made me loathe what should have been really fun, intense moments of the story, and was actively more immersion-breaking than any bad line read could ever be. God, I am happy to finally get that off my chest. I don't even want to talk about the scene anymore. It's revealed that Endermen can pick apart the Witherstorm. That's kind of all that happens here, and then we get out of here. That's all you need to know, so let's move on. We run to a cave and get to talk with Gabriel more. So what's going on with him is that being inside the storm for so long gave him some form of amnesia. Gotta say, this is surreal to see. In my playthrough, because I saved him way back in Chapter 1 as opposed to Petra, this was actually Petra who was trapped and then got amnesia for my own playthrough. It's kind of interesting to see choices made that early in the story still having huge impacts here.
That jacket! I recognize it!
Huh. It's funny how he recognizes a jacket, but not, like, the people he's known for years. The reason he brings this up is because apparently Lucas's gang survived, which makes him interested in wanting to go out to save them. I convinced him to stay and help us, if I remember correctly, and X-Cage does here as well. It kind of makes me wonder how the story would change if he left. Also, Petra isn't doing so well either. She doesn't have amnesia herself, but what the Wither did to her is getting worse. So much worse that it'll make her dialogue cut off in funny ways.
Still, I'm gonna do everything I can. Petra.
We mill about in this cave for a bit, talk to everyone and all that, catch up with people, get some lore. Eventually we go outside, have a heart-to-heart with Ruben until,
This isn't about the past, it's about the future.
Wait, that's Ivor's voice. Oh god, he's here. But he wants to help us now. You know, he is very clearly a villain, but in the back of my head playing this, I kind of felt for him a little bit here. If you remember from Chapter 1, he did have a plan to kill the Witherstorm before it got out of control. His intention was most likely to just scare Gabriel to make a point, as a form of revenge for something the Order did to him. But he didn't want to, like, kill everyone in the process, he just wanted to freak people out. I'm not defending the guy's actions here, obviously, but it's important to notice that this is an instance where we both technically have the same goal here, and it'd probably be best for us to, like, work together at this point. Case in point, he gives us some information here. He tells us that the command block powering the storm is actually coded to follow the amulet, which explains why it's been able to follow us wherever we go. That's some neat lore consistency. We also come up with a new plan. So, we saw the Endermen pick apart pieces of the storm. We theorized that if we could get enough Endermen close to it, of which there are plenty at Soren's fortress, we could take enough of it apart that it exposes the command block. And then Ivor adds that he has a secret lab that contains a special book that can be used to enchant a weapon that'll allow us to destroy it.
You figured all that out just now?
Okay then, so that's the goal for this chapter. We all join up and decide that Axel and Magnus will take the amulet and distract the Witherstorm until we can lure it to the fortress. And the rest of us will follow Ivor to this lab to get this book, which is allegedly very, very far away. Oh, I do not like how Ruben sits. That looks creepily uncanny, even by this game's standards.
go any faster?
Not unless you have a minecart.
I really like the music in this sequence where you're traveling on horseback. You know, I haven't really mentioned this quite yet, but this game's music in general is quite good. A lot of it goes for a pretty generic action or atmospheric feel, but some of the more mysterious or adventurous songs really add to some of their respective scenes. Another song I like, but forgot to mention, was the one that played earlier when we were talking about Soren for the first time. I particularly like that one.
I don't even remember what it looks like up there.
Help me save the world.
How?
The Formidabomb.
God, we've been traveling for so long, though, that I just got to wonder just how far away this is.
Are we there yet?
Not much further now.
Are we there yet?
No, we are not there yet.
I mean, it's so far away that at this point I'm even tempted to make some kind of joke about the Farlands or something.
We cannot go to the Farlands. They're not.
Wait a second.
You know, I think I've heard of the Farlands before.
They're actually going there. Oh god, this means I gotta explain the Farlands now. The Farlands are insane, and one of the coolest natural phenomenons in the entire history of this game, in my opinion. Basically, if you go far out into the world, and I mean like really obscenely far, at some point you'll eventually come across this. What this is the map that generates Minecraft terrain essentially glitching out and making this giant wall of broken geometry. The exact reason why it creates this, of all things, is extremely complicated and goes way over my head, and Sora even verbatim mentions a couple of the terms for it, which is kind of mind-blowing to see.
Purlin noise, floating points? These are not matters to be toyed with.
But it's just such an interesting thing that does happen, given you're playing an older version of the game. Yeah, this has since been patched, so you will never come across the Farlands in modern versions of the game, and in my opinion, they shouldn't have made that change. They should have kept this as a feature, because simply put, the amount of world you would need to explore to encounter this thing is simply more than one person could literally ever explore in one lifetime. Like, I'm not even kidding. If you're going to see the Farlands in a playthrough, that's going to be the theme of your entire playthrough, and it's going to be a long playthrough at that. It kind of falls into that category to me that it's the kind of thing you'll only ever see if you're actively looking for it. So I don't see much harm in it being in the game as a strange Easter egg for really dedicated players. Hell, Ivor himself even puts my feelings towards it in a pretty good way.
Oh, please. The Farlands are a happy accident. Nature's way of keeping life interesting.
Now, I believe the Farlands were patched out after the point of this game came out, so this is yet again another deep cut, which, as usual, are incredibly cool to see. We decide to stop for a minute to find some food because, I mean, they have been traveling for this long.
A witch's hut.
Ivor jump scare. We encounter a witch. Okay, so I've mentioned how much I love how the mobs are animated in this. The witch are an exception. It just looks so stiff, and something about its throwing animation looks almost incorrect to me. Although it is cool to see something similar to a villager in this game. Villagers are a pretty big deal in Minecraft, but this is actually the only time we see anything close to one in story mode. Ivor stays behind as we run off.
Hold on to your potatoes!
Hold on to your potatoes. I remember in my playthrough, I actually got Ivor to keep going with us, but I kind of forgot how I did that to happen, or how I made that happen. Whatever. Yep, that's the Farlands. God, it even looks pretty accurate. This is just weird to see. The only real not so accurate part I can find is that it's far taller than the normal Farlands, which is probably done on purpose to, like, make it look more epic, you know?
I'd feel better about this if Axel and Petra were here.
Actually, where is Petra? Did they really just leave her at that cave? When we enter the Farlands, is this... I don't think this is what the inside of the Farlands looks like. I don't think there's a maze inside of there. They kind of imply that Ivor built this with the command block, so I guess there's a reason for it. You know, one thing I wish they did more in this chapter is actually explore the Farlands more. In hindsight, the fact that you go there at all is more of a set piece than anything. They don't have to, like, climb it, and as you can see here, the second they enter it, it kind of just looks like some generic empty cave aside from these holes in the ceiling, which I think are a Farlands thing, although it's not really the kind of geometry I associate with them. Whatever. We're first on top of this maze, and my god, this part sucks too. You just kind of walk. Like, this is just a maze you gotta walk through. It goes on for minutes on end, like nearly 10 minutes. It doesn't build tension, nothing really happens. One of the few things you can interact here is this unnoteworthy piece of floating land, and what happens when you do is that Jesse just looks at it and then shrugs, and then continues on with the maze. Actually, a pretty good synopsis for this entire area. This is pure filler and really boring. I have no clue why they decided to design it this way, outside of running out of ways to pad out runtime. Oh my god, we finally get somewhere. Oh, that's a flying machine. Jesse doesn't seem to recognize it, though. Thankfully, our resident redstone expert catches up with us, and when she sees it...
It's some kind of flying barge.
Okay, so I was told that mob grinder is apparently a real term people use. Though you can't convince me that people call this thing a flying barge. What does barge even mean? That doesn't even look like one of those. It's a little broken, so Olivia has to help us rebuild it, and in all honesty, I really like this section. In fact, while I liked Olivia from the start, this was the moment that made her one of my favorite characters. She looks it over and thinks it's way too complicated for her, gets discouraged that she's not as smart as she thought she was, and then we have a heart-to-heart about how things are going. This motivates her to try again, and from here, she really gets the hang of how the mechanism works. Basically, Ivor just built it a little wrong, and we gotta fix it. I like this section a lot, not only because it's an instance of genuine character growth for her, but because it kind of captures that essence of redstone building I personally love so much. You see people make these incredible contraptions that look way too complicated and way out of your league, but then the second you actually try to pick them apart or find a genuine tutorial on them, it begins to make a lot more sense. Like, it just clicks, you know? It's almost realistic in a meta sort of way, if that makes sense. Also, I just think this is kind of funny too, just the audacity of them assuming the average player playing this game is going to know how a flying machine works. Just as we finish the thing, everyone else comes running in, and we take the machine over the chasm to Ivor's lab. Along the way, Gabriel talks as if he's getting parts of his memory back. We then look around for the enchanted book.
You're a good friend, Lucas. The fact that you're always thinking about others, it says a lot.
You know, this is a little off topic, but there's something I'd like to bring up. I don't know why, but before I got into trying this game, one thing I recall constantly hearing about it is that it had a particularly unlikable protagonist. Has anyone else noticed that? People seem to really not like Jesse. And call me crazy, having actually played it, I don't really see it. I mean, given he can be a little annoying and his line reads tend to be pretty sassy, I guess.
Hey, you almost said teamwork.
See, we're still funny. We can still get things done.
But he's not hateable or exhibits serious character flaws like I would expect for this kind of character. He can be an asshole if you want him to. I mean, most gameplay choices give you 4 options, and one more often than not just lets you say or do something horrible, but these instances are more a player choice than up to Jesse's own agency, so I find it hard to decide whether I should judge the character by default on them alone. Although, I have a bit of a theory as to why I might have gotten this impression going in. YouTubers. Quite a lot of Minecraft YouTubers, and heck, even people who don't necessarily cover Minecraft that often, played this for their channel when it released. And I'm not going to mince words here, a lot of them didn't take the game very seriously.
And she's gone. Alright, we're gonna let Lucas get killed, and then we break free.
This then led to many of them going for more joke answers than anything when prompted to react to something, as opposed to what they would genuinely do. Heck, I can admit I'm guilty of that in some of the games I play. It's kind of fun to be a jerk sometimes, you know? And a lot of these tend to make Jesse come off as needlessly mean. And given that some of these Let's Plays have millions of views, my theory is that this callous interpretation of Jesse sort of became what most people would think of when they talk about the character. When in reality, he can actually be quite nice and supportive. I don't know, I just don't see him as an unlikable protagonist, I guess. I see him more as a blank slate protagonist with a tad bit more personality than the average for that trope. And if you do think he's unlikable, well, I don't really know how to word this outside of saying that might be a you problem for consistently picking unlikable options for one reason or another. I don't know, I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest, I guess. We get separated along with Soren. Going a little further, we stumble across a museum of sorts. These are all treasures the Order has collected over the years. Soren can give us some lore on them, but we can also take them to solve a puzzle in the room.
Soren, is this the actual Ender Dragon egg? No way I'm leaving this behind.
Okay, I object. Just picks up a dragon egg. Dragon eggs teleport when you try to mine them for some reason in the actual game. I don't know why they do that, but like it doesn't work like this in the game, you know? I don't know why they didn't make some sort of nod to that here. It's such an obvious mechanic of this item that it almost feels like an oversight.
Yes! Everything I needed was in your stories.
Nice work.
Whoa! What happened to the background there? Wait, that's an area we see a little bit later. I think the game just glitched and spoiled itself for some reason. The next room has another puzzle, and in order to solve this, you need to hear Soren's recollection of the battle with him and his friends against the Ender Dragon. Once we're done with that, however, there's the book. And, that's not all that's in here, though. Wait, you need to destroy those to kill an Ender Dragon. Why are they here? Soren drops quite a plot twist on us. That big heroic story he told wasn't exactly true. They did kill the Ender Dragon, but it wasn't with cunning or strength or planning, but instead with the command block. They essentially cheated and faked their hero story, hyped it up and lied for all these years. And this whole thing going on right now, Ivor's plan was to expose the Order for the fraud that it was, which, as we all know, got way out of hand.
To show you who the Order really are. Liars, cowards!
Sorry about punching you. You know, one thing I started to begin to wonder a lot at this point was where exactly did the command block come from? I don't recall if this is ever explained, but it's something I couldn't help but think about given how big a deal it's become in the story. Again, these things aren't meant to actually exist in the mode of Minecraft this world supposedly takes place in, so it's just something I'm very curious about now. Oh god, curves on an item looks so weird in this universe. Ivor takes us to a chamber where we can craft any type of tool we want, and then enchant it using the book. It looks quite cool. He then shows us 8 new armors, and whatever you pick here will actually be what Jesse permanently wears for the rest of the game, so it's a pretty big deal. Xcage doesn't show this, but Ivor can actually give you a little bit of lore on each one. They even all have funny names, which is cool. They picked the one that I think is called the Shield of Infinity. When I played this, I chose the Ender Defender, because I like the colors. And in the back of my head, I thought these might have gameplay changes. With a name like that, I thought it would help me against the Endermen we would no doubt run into later in this plan. Although, as it turns out, it didn't matter at all, because these armors are purely cosmetic from this point. We are ready to go. The next scene, we're back at Soren's house, and, okay, I have to ask, did they take the same route back? And did it take just as long as the trip to Ivor's lab? Remember, we traveled to the frickin' far lands, and I guess we just rode all the way back? How long did that take?
My name is Gabriel the Warrior.
Wait! God, I don't like this version of Gabriel. Like, I get the whole gimmick of the Order at this point is that they aren't as heroic as they claim they are, but this is just pathetic. Oh yeah, Axel and Olivia get new armors at this point too, and they're pretty badass. They're inspired by their heroes from the Order. At this point, we gotta piss off a bunch of Endermen so they'll attack the Witherstorm. My god. Okay, this sequence does get a little slapsticky, I'm not gonna lie. The Endermen pick enough away for us to make a contraption that allows us to blast ourselves inside. Once we're in, we're oh god, that is morbid. How did they let them get away with that? That is genuinely terrifying. This whole place is pretty scary. I like it a lot. Eventually, Jesse finds the block, hits it with his weapon, partially destroying it, while also angering the storm itself. And now for a pretty hard action sequence. You know, I will say, I feel like I'm enjoying these more now watching them as opposed to playing them. Remember that from here on out, I grew a habit of pause buffering through these, so I couldn't really appreciate them to their fullest until now. It's kind of cool to actually see these at the proper pacing the devs intended. Our ultimate gambit is to actually use one of its tractor beams to our advantage for once. Stab this head with the eye, get on top of the head, swing across the room onto another tentacle, drop the weapon, Ruben picks it back up and runs back up to us, falls into a pit himself. That's it, let's finish this. We did it, the storm falls apart, the Endermen zip away, and everything seems alright. Although, like last time, one of our friends didn't quite make it.
Come on, Ruben, say something.
I'm gonna be real, this scene is hard to take seriously. I once showed this scene to a friend without context, and her first immediate question was, why does the pig have a human face? Ruben is... Freaking heck, I am never ready for that. Ruben will be remembered! Why the pork chop? That feels like a gag you would see in something that's a parody of this game. I mean, pigs do drop those, but we've killed plenty of mobs before, and they've never dropped stuff like that. My god, they had to know, right? I have never seen a clip of someone playing this game for the first time who didn't laugh at that. I genuinely don't know how you're supposed to react to this besides being completely taken aback by how stupid that is, even by this game's standards. Fun fact, but the wiki for this game has a screenshot of this pork chop, and it's just called Corpse. Okay, can we move on? I bet some of y'all were waiting for me to talk about that scene, weren't you? A week passes, and, oh, that is the framiest of frame rates. Oh, hey, there's Nora. I guess she does appear later. We give a bit of a victory speech here, and to commemorate defeating the storm once and for all. There's a borderline creepy part here where the subtitles say the crowd is chanting Jesse's name, but they're not. But anyway, we did it! Gabriel adorns us as a new order, a new generation of heroes, if you will. And we end on a freeze frame, to be continued in Chapter 5. And while this may have seemed like a conclusion to the story, we're only about halfway done here. And in my opinion, the second half is, like, a lot better. Like, I love the second half of this game. Would you believe me if I told you that Chapter 5 is my favorite part of the game? Yeah, I'm excited for this. Yeah, before we get into it though, I want to show off this really interesting video I was sent by Sweetheart Rose. Did you know that during this scene when Lucas is asking if he should stick around with you guys or go help his own friends, there's actually a secret third option here. Apparently, if up to this point you pick every conceivable option that either has you being mean to Lucas or dismissing him entirely...
Yeah, good point. Let's sit here and sing songs instead. First song is called How We Gave Up at the Finish Line, because of Lucas.
Be a dick to Lucas %, if you will, not to be confused with a be a dick to Rousey %. He gets so pissed off in this scene that he just leaves on his own.
And wanting to help my friends makes me stupid? I don't need this. I'm going after the people who get what friendship actually means.
And then the next time you see him is during the ending where this happens.
I had my friends with me. There was Olivia, Axel, Petra, even Lucas.
Oh my god. And apparently this Easter egg is so remote that Sweetheart claims to have the only footage of it on the internet, and I can believe it. That is a lot of work for such a minor yet serious change like that, but it's so interesting to see that kind of detail thrown in if you're that much of a jerk to him. If anything, it kind of makes me wonder how many special paths like this are hidden in the game now, and the likelihood of us ever finding them all considering the game's availability. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and start Chapter 5. Chapter 5 begins with an action sequence where Jesse stabs a zombie in the crotch of his sword while making this face. Weird start, but okay. So, something I was kind of wondering going into this for the first time was, where was the story going to go from here? The whole Witherstorm thing took 4 chapters in and of itself, and had a pretty conclusive beginning, middle, and end. with our main cast being adorned heroes. Doesn't really seem like there'd be much to do from there. In the back of my head, I thought this might have been some kind of epilogue, but there's no way that would be 4 chapters long. Then I thought maybe this was the elusive Season 2 I've heard of by this point, but didn't really know anything about. Nope, not that either. This is still Season 1. Maybe this is a reboot series, or like a reboot branch? I mean, to jump ahead a bit here, several characters feel written completely differently from here on out, and it was the first episode to take longer than 1 month to release, and it also has a very different tone from previous episodes. No, not that either. This very much is a continuation of the story, and our 4 main characters are even wearing the armor they had at the end of Chapter 4. What we have on our hands here is what most fans seem to refer to as a separate story arc. As in, Chapter 1 to 4 is all about the Wither Storm, while Chapter 5 to 8 is about a brand new threat. Particularly, the fandom has a habit of calling this the Portal Arc, for reasons we'll see later. Not quite what I expected, but I'm here for it. Let's see where this goes. So our heroes decide to take the whole New Order of the Stone thing pretty seriously and sort of go treasure hunting during their spare time now. They got a tip from Ivor to check out this temple that apparently has something cool in it. Oh, Ivor's still around, alright. They solve a puzzle, go down this giant pit, and find some chests. You know, I'm noticing a couple oddities here. For one, Petra mentions her memory as if she was the one who got amnesia.
So, how are you feeling lately?
Memory's all back, as far as I can tell.
When in reality it was Gabriel who did for this playthrough. And then here, when Jesse finds a cake, Axel reminisces about that time you stole a cake from a witch.
Man, this reminds me of that time when you got a cake from that witch's hut.
Which, is something you can do. That's something in Chapter 4, but X-Cage doesn't do that in their long play. At this point, it became pretty obvious to me that this entire playthrough is likely multiple runs spliced together, so the viewers get a little bit of everything, you know? I mean, you might as well with a game with this many tiny branching pathways like this. And thinking about this, this might also explain why X-Cage went after Boomtown when they chose Eligard at the very start of the game. I mean, that was probably very obvious, but it still very much caught me off guard. The most interesting thing we find down here is a flint and steel of a strange enchantment. Instead of just making a single tile of fire in the main game like it does, it does that. Odd. We escape the Temple of our new loot, play around with the flint and steel some more when,
Who let you guys out of your cave?
Wait, who are these guys? Okay, remember the Ocelots, the bully group from Chapter 1, like 5.5 hours ago at this point, that Lucas originally came from? This is them and they're back for revenge. Although, while they have been mentioned a couple times since then, we haven't actually seen them since Chapter 1, so I actually genuinely forgot who they were. They come out of nowhere here, and I guess they want to be actual antagonists now. Since they're going to be more important now, I might as well say who voices him. We have Matthew Mercer voicing Eden, Phil Lamar voicing Gil, and J.K. No, not JK, that's someone we don't talk about. And G.K. Bose voicing Maya. Oh yeah, and from this point they're also called the Blaze Rods too. They rebranded since they don't want to be associated with Lucas anymore after his redemption arc.
Hey, we earned this, all right? Fair and square.
Nothing you've ever done has been fair and square.
Actually, everything in this game is a square. They want the flint and steel. It looks like we're about to fight before they just go away and we all go home. That was anticlimactic. I'm sure they won't become important later. Once we're back in town, a crowd greets us back.
See that? Jesse high-fived me! Me! It actually hurt a little bit. Wow.
Excuse me? What? But then we see a new building erected just in the middle of the road, and it's spewing lava. Who in the world could this possibly belong to? Wait. Oh god, that's Ivor.
My gift to the community. If anyone's short on lava, this is the place to get more.
Wait.
Haven't seen you around in a while. So what can I do for you?
Wait, why that tone?
It's a fire hazard!
And your face is an ugly hazard.
Oh my god! Okay, so imagine you're a writer. You have a character who used to be a villain, maybe even did some horrible stuff, and you want to make that character likable again. You want him to become a recurring character on the heroes' team. How would you pull that off? Maybe give them a more brooding personality, or a more charitable or giving one. But to have some nuance, perhaps make him a bit paranoid that people around him don't still trust him. And he knows that he deserves that kind of distrust. He accepts it, although in spite of all of this, still wants a way to make it up to everyone one day. Like, that'd be a pretty great setup for a deep character with a deep background, and that's kind of what I expected would happen with this character as soon as I heard that Ivor was going to be in Chapter 5. You wanna know what they did instead, though? They made him the comic relief for some reason.
Ah, I've never been so happy to smell rotting flesh.
They made him the funny guy of the group.
Granted, her creation nearly ended up destroying this world, but considering my own history, I'm inclined to give her the benefit of the doubt.
But not because he's actually funny, but more because he's just weird and awkward and unpredictable, and if anything, occasionally even more reckless than he was in the game's first half. By all accounts, this should not work. This should come off as really annoying, really out of character, even a bit tone-deaf to a certain degree, but for some reason, it just works. Back in Chapter 1, I briefly mentioned that Ivor is my favorite character, but we kind of gotta wait quite a ways in before we start to figure out why. We are at that point. I am so sorry, Olivia. Ivor is now my favorite character in the game. I'm not the type to typically be drawn to the comic relief, to be perfectly honest, but Ivor from this point forward is such an unorthodox interpretation of one that he very quickly and then consistently became the most entertaining character to me. I hung out with him, I talked to him, and chose him at every opportunity I could to just be around him because the guy's an absolute wild card from this point forward. I just need to know what he would do, and I was never disappointed. I can always get behind a weird, unpredictable character like this, and my god, I am so excited now that he's going to become much more of a big deal in the plot moving forward. We tell him we found something cool in the jungle.
What? You did? Yes! Great to see you again! Let's do lunch! I'll bring the carrots!
What does that even mean? Next scene we're in... I don't think they explain what this place is, but I interpret it as a museum in development dedicated to the history of the Order. Lucas is here, checking out some of the stuff.
Yeah, I thought I'd show my face again.
Well, it's great to see it. Your face, I mean.
You know, speaking of characters feeling written differently, Petra definitely feels a lot more perky than her go-it-alone attitude she had for most of the first half of the game. And Lucas feels a lot more pensive and thoughtful. Although, unlike with Ivor, who's just... I don't know what they're going for, but they struck gold with it either way. With these two, it feels a lot like genuine character development. Like, these are logical conclusions for their characters to go after everything they've been through.
Yeah.
How are you?
Wait, they framed the pork chop. Why did they frame the pork chop? Buddy, just the scroll would have worked. Why does his corpse need to be there? What? Lucas came by to warn us that Aiden has been acting really weird recently. Mostly out of jealousy because he wanted to be the one to save the world. Ah, so that's what's going on. We show Lucas our new find.
Yeah, I know. I'm supposed to show it to...
You found it!
Ivor jump scare. Dude, where did he even come from? This angle would imply that it was from behind Lucas, but in a previous shot he was nowhere to be seen. Did no one notice him sneak up to... What is his deal? The flint and steel is the key to finding this source of infinite resources called the Eversource, and at one point belonged to the Old Builders, a bunch of people who apparently existed before the Order. He says this and everyone reacts as if this was like centuries ago or something, but in the back of my mind I was like, so who's the oldest Order member? Ivor probably. He looks pretty elderly, but not like super old by video game lore standards, you know? I don't know. How they word this just kind of feels a little weird to me, but to be honest, it kind of comes off more as just an excuse to move the plot to a more interesting part of the arc.
Excellent! I'll pack my adventuring things immediately!
Look at him go! Guys, look how excited he is. Aren't you happy for him?
Ivor, it's nice to see you smiling.
I'm not smiling!
He's not smiling! He wasn't smiling!
Petra! Blonde guy! Are you...
Blonde guy! Oh, I forgot that became a running joke too. He has a hard time remembering Lucas's name.
I'm liking you better by the minute, Louis.
Why did they go this hard with this character? After a bit of searching, we find a strange portal, and we're able to activate it with the magic flint and steel, similar to how you'd activate a nether portal. But then Aiden shows up again, and we fight for a bit, and that ends in everyone going into the portal. When we emerge on the other side, oh, also I love this frame. We find ourselves on a floating island overlooking a large floating city. What? Here we might as well try to head over there. We dig up the island we spawned on to get enough blocks to bridge over. Wait, Ivor, what do you do? Oh my god.
This is in memory of my lava house. Long live lava!
Oh, another guy, and he's freaking out over the fact that we're building.
You were building! Unauthorized building is against the law!
Against the law? What? Wait, what kind of place is this? Well, let's look around.
Hello! It is nice to meet you!
Ivor, what are you doing? We find ourselves in Sky City, and it's quite beautiful. Although it's also quite a bit draconian. The entire city has a strict lockdown on building and crafting. It's against the law to place any blocks or craft any items without express permission from the founder. We also run into Innkeeper Milo, voiced by Jim Meskimen, I think that's how you say it, who we've been told might be able to help us, at least in the department of finding where Aiden went, but he's being generally unhelpful. The town is called to an emergency meeting where we get to see the founder, voiced by Melissa Hutchinson. She seems to do a lot of voice work for, like, indie to AA video game productions, which inevitably makes her probably one of the actresses I recognize the most roles of going through her IMDb. A couple that immediately stuck out to me was that she's 9-Volt from WarioWare and Bianca from the Spyro Trilogy remake. She also voices 3 major characters from Yokai Watch, Komasan, Katie, and Eusapion? Oh my god, I love Eusapion so much, dude. And she's with Aiden.
Earlier today, outsiders built a bridge into our fair city from a distant island. Jesse, wherever you are, step forward now. I have already been informed of your identity.
Oh god, so he told her that we were the ones who built the bridge into the place, and now we're going to get arrested. At this point, we have 2 choices. Get arrested alongside Ivor, as he thinks this will get us closer to the Eversource. Classic Ivor. Or go with newcomer Milo to see if he can help. Alright, come on, XCage, you can do this. Go with Ivor, go with Ivor, go with Ivor. No! Okay, maybe this is for the best, as I've never seen this route before, and kind of ignored Milo for most part of my playthrough, because, you know, it's Ivor. Milo leads us back to his inn and opens a secret passage revealing a secret rebel organization dedicated to building.
You see, one day, a long time ago, I was just a citizen of Sky City, like any other. I wanted to make a community garden, so I put in a petition for a dirt block, and mercy me, it was granted.
You know, okay, has anyone else noticed this? I don't know why, but for some reason a lot of the subtitles in this chapter have been very incorrect as of late. I don't know why that is, but it's actually starting to bother me a little bit. This club looks cool, but a lot of the members are skeptical of us.
The most wanted criminals in the whole city? We gotta turn them in before the guards break our door down. Well, no, let's not do that.
Okay, that was a really good line read. We build an iron golem to impress them. Oh, speaking of which, here's how the soap is coming along. Buddy, he is almost free. Milo tells us that he wants to get his hands on the Eversource so his builders club can build to their heart's content. And then after we teach him how to build ladders, he comes with us and we sneak into the palace. We find our way into the throne room to find Ivor and Lucas, of all people, looking together around as well. Apparently they broke out of jail. You can probably assume, but if you went with Ivor back at that big choice, that pathway would lead back here instead. So yeah, once again, everything would converge eventually. Well, while we're all here, we might as well look around for the Eversource. Oh, that's a cobblestone generator. That's another thing that kind of became popular in the fan community, most specifically due to skyblock challenges, which, wait a second. Did they do that on purpose? like, put a thing most people associate with the sky or, like, sky-related challenges in a Sky City chapter.
Yes, the ground you're standing on is actually the original island that all of Sky City started from. That tree dropped the saplings that grew into every tree on the island.
Oh my god, maybe it was. Wait, this city is a skyblock challenge? That is a cool reference to the community.
So, how was prison life?
Oh, it was wonderful. I've always wanted time behind bars to work on my poetry. That was sarcasm.
You know, when I picked him, his route actually consisted of you and Ivor escaping jail alongside Lucas. And when you talk to him again here, he says probably my favorite line in the game, or at least the funniest line in the game to me. This is probably the hardest I ever laughed playing this game. Thank you, by the way, for getting arrested with me. No one's ever done anything like that for me before. Now go away. Thanks, Ivor. The solution here is to craft a lever and use it to power this door. Let's head on down and find a storage room. For mobs? Wait, you can't store mobs in a chest.
Creeper.
Aw, man.
Zombie.
Whoa! Wait, those are spawn eggs. What? Sort of like the command block from the first part of the game, these can't be found in a normal playthrough. Oh, I really should be used to the game doing this sort of thing by now, but I just don't get used to it. Like, this is so weird. We then find a chicken. Not just any chicken, though. This is the Eversource, and apparently it's what's laying all these spawn eggs. So, unlike with the command block, there actually is a story reason for how they got here.
Ivor, geez, Lucas is right. We can't just steal, kidnap...
Chicken nap?
Whoa, what? Okay, what is up with the subtitles in this chapter? Whoa! What the frick? She's just throwing people! She dual-wields swords? Seeing this as the perfect opportunity, Aiden turns on the Founder and attempts to use the eggs to kill us all and take the Eversource for himself. He pushes us off the island along with Lucas and the Founder, and we're left falling into the abyss. We fall until we see the normal overworld. I mean, it makes sense, but I guess I didn't expect just normality to be down here. We gotta move towards some water to break our fall, though. You know, I like this detail right here. These lava streams are actually from that skull in the bridge Ivor made at the start of, like, this entire area.
Let me ask. Founder? Miss Founder?
I, hope she's not in shock or something.
You, doing okay over there?
Wait, Isa? Oh god, that was another error in the subtitles, and that one I think actually spoiled something. We're not supposed to know her name yet, I think. Also, that's also the name of a Kingdom Hearts character. Hey, have you guys started a drinking game yet anytime I mention that series in a video? I'm sorry, I like Kingdom Hearts, okay? I should make another video about it at some point. Zombies start falling from the sky, and we figure he must be spawning a lot of mobs up there. We gotta pillar back up in order to save everyone. While gathering materials for said pillar, we come across another one of those portals, but we can't deal with that right now. When we get back, the entire place is being ravaged by mobs. We meet up with our friends again, and Ivor lets us pick a potion to help us get inside to confront Aiden.
Give me a potion of speed.
Here!
Gotta go fast.
Once Jesse gets in... No, you didn't punch! Aiden's there waiting, and we fight. This battle sequence is intense. Aiden's fighting style is quite brutal compared to, like, everyone else we've seen so far, and it makes him probably the most threatening humanoid combatant we've seen in this game yet. That's a nice attention to detail, too. Blazes actually do take damage from rain, for as rare as it is to get one of those into a place where that can actually happen. You know, that's something I kind of like about Minecraft in general. Like, there's a lot of just weird attention to details that, like, you never expect, but, like, are just there and kind of cool. We overpower Aiden and push him off the edge. Jeez, that was intense. And then we head back in hopes of saving everyone else as well. What is that fighting style? I love it! We recognize that the city is kind of a lost cause at this point. That is not where I thought this was going. There are just too many monsters, so we encourage the entire population to jump into a waterfall and float back down to the surface.
Jesse, I cannot thank you enough. You've saved us all.
We made it. Everyone is here safely, and they're kind of at a loss of what to do at this point, although arresting Aiden would probably be a good start.
Bah! I'm sure I do look like a naive idealist through the eyes of an oppressive dictator.
Hey, both of you, fighting isn't gonna solve anything.
It will if I win.
They decide to start civilization anew, this time a mix between the founder and Milo's ideologies. Run free, build as you please, and be creative, but go in with a plan, not a bad moral. And the founder gives us the Eversource's crown as thanks. Also, the chicken's name is Benedict. And at this point, you do learn that the founder's name is Isa. We go through the portal and...
We don't Axel and Olivia here when we fed. They'll never believe it. That's not what I was expecting.
Oh, that's not home. But that is the end of the chapter. God, why do I like this chapter so much? Well, it's got a little bit of everything I like. It's a little meta, the choices are interesting, the location is super interesting, the new characters are fun, and it reworks an old character into my favorite in the game. It's pretty well written, all things considered, even having like a lot of really funny jokes, and it's only the beginning to the portal arc. I kind of like how Chapter 6 opens. So the implication at this point is that Jesse and co are trying to find their way back home. And the best solution they have at the moment is to just go through random portals and hope it leads them back to their world. Given how many there are, this obviously isn't going very well, although this chapter begins with them popping into one that's kinda close, barring the two moons, which honestly is just a tad more creepy than it should be. We spawn in some kind of graveyard and find a book. We start to read it, which immediately sees us surrounded by zombies. Like, a lot of zombies. As for what the book itself says, it's an invitation to a house party, but we gotta head over there fast because, my god, that is a lot of zombies. We got this whole action sequence as we make our way over there to this giant mansion, figuring it's where the party must be, and we head inside. Though on the way we see presumably our host, a strange character wearing a white pumpkin on their head. When we eventually get inside, we find ourselves in some kitchen with two people arguing just outside. Before we know it, Whoa! Wait, that's Captain Sparkles. Oh my god, I watched that guy all the time. Wait, who's this other guy, though? The heck is a Torque Dog? Is that anything like a game dog? Whoa, they just killed that guy. What? Whoa! Whoa! I mean, I know of these people. This is surreal. Oh my god, they just demonetized Captain Sparkles. Okay, this chapter moves quickly. Let's back up a bit. So on the back of the box, I remember seeing something that caught my interest a little bit, featuring fan favorites Stampy Cat, Dan DTM, Captain Sparkles, Stacy Plays, and LD Shadow Lady. For those of you who don't know this space very well, these are YouTubers, real-life people, all of which have several million subscribers and are also particularly known for playing Minecraft. Now, when you think of a YouTube cameo in a game, what comes to mind? Just that, right? A cameo. Like maybe they appear in one area or for one scene, get a line or two as an NPC or even a facsimile of themselves that their fans can find and get excited about. What? That's Northern Light! What the? I watched that YouTuber a lot. Why is Northern Lion in this game? Maybe there's a reference to their channel in there somewhere, although in this game's case they're all specifically using their actual skins they are most known for playing as on their respective channels, though slightly modified to better fit the game's art style. And in terms of the characters themselves, it's like actually them. They even reference how many subscribers they have.
Captain Sparkles, I've got like 9 million fans?
This is so weird. Overall, this kind of cameo stuff may be a little cringy to some and may date that subtle part of your game in the long run, especially if said YouTuber got canceled at some point, but like, for the most part, it's a pretty harmless and fun practice, right? So I read that, and I was kind of curious where these YouTubers were going to show up. Chapter 1 went by, not a single one appeared. Then Chapter 2 passed, not a single one there either. Chapter 3, 4, 5, still no sign of these alleged YouTuber cameos. At this point, I was getting a little curious if I may have missed something. Like, maybe these cameos were hidden somewhere and I overlooked them somehow, or maybe many of them have shown up, and since I only actively follow one people of these 5, I just missed them. No. They're all in Chapter 6. Like, all of them. Every single one of them. This felt weird to me. Like, why all at once? I was not ready for what the game was about to throw at me. So anyway, Captain Sparkles and TheGamedawg. I'm sorry, this chapter is insane. I love it. These two barge in arguing over something, and we figured they must be other guests who were invited to this big party. We're trying to get some information on the place when suddenly the lights go out, and when they turn back on, TheGamedawg is dead.
Hey, Jesse. Jesse, come here. You've got a girl's name.
Those are his last words. You know, something kind of funny about that line is that if you're playing as the girl avatar, he says that Jesse's a boy name as his final words instead. His inventory gets sucked up, and Ivor tells us that the arrow that killed him are actually poison-tipped.
Oh, is it a tipped arrow? Oh, I've heard of those. They're still pretty new.
Huh. You know, that's actually a bit meta, considering at this point, tipped arrows were actually a pretty new feature. I think they were like less than a year old at this point. Suddenly, someone else comes in. LD Shadow Lady, voiced by LD Shadow Lady. Okay, that's a little redundant to do in this chapter, right? We meet up with all of the other people who were invited here. LD Shadow Lady, Stacy Plays, Stampy Cat, Cassie Rose and her cat Winslow, and Dandy TM. We all talk about TheGamedawg's mysterious death and decide to ask around for clues and to get alibis from people, almost like this is adding up to be some kind of murder mystery or something. Wait. It was at this point that I realized what was going on here. Chapter 6 is a mansion murder mystery where all of the suspects and victims are Minecraft YouTubers playing themselves. Oh my lord. I thought these guys were just going to be like minute-long cameos at the very most, but no. This is the plot of Chapter 6. This is the core conflict. This is the theme of the day. Who thinks of this? I could not believe what I was playing here. This feels like the kind of thing you would come up with while bored at work, but not entertain past that. Like, it kind of reminds me of... Do you guys remember the FUPA controversy? Back around 2016, 2017... God, that was a while ago, so I might get some details wrong here. There was this YouTube drama where this creator named H3H3 made a reaction video to this video made by Bold Guy. And Bold Guy had issues with this, and in response tried to sue H3 over this video, claiming it was copyright infringement. And while it didn't go to court, it got far enough along in the legal proceedings that an actual judge took a look at it and issued a statement along the lines of, no, this is not copyright infringement because this clearly falls under fair use law. Which might not sound like a big deal, but what this proved to do was set up an unprecedented legal example of what does and does not count as fair use on YouTube, which was huge for the time. And while this was going on, this whole thing took like a couple months to resolve because, you know, American legal system. For a brief moment in history, I got this stupid idea in my head while bored at work of, what if someone made kind of an Ace Attorney style fan game where you played as the lawyer who helped H3 through a lot of that event, and you helped other YouTubers who notoriously have had to deal with copyright issues in the past? Like, a couple examples that came to mind were helping James Sterling during that time Digital Homicide tried to sue them for their negative review coverage of their game, or that time I Hate Everything was issued a bunch of takedowns by the director of Cool Cat Saves the Kids, mostly because I think cross-examining Cool Cat would have been hilarious. I mean, look at those eyes. He's hiding something, right? I think I made a Reddit thread talking about this at some point, but I genuinely can't find it anymore, but like, that's the most I ever went with this, right? However, for as stupid as that sounds, this sounds almost as dumb to me, and it's an officially licensed thing. Hey kids, have you ever wanted to accuse Stampy Longhead of homicide? You can do that in this game. The even gave them Danganronpa-style death portraits. How is this real? I just have so many questions. Who thought of this? Who pitched this? Who didn't turn it down? Like, I don't know, a YouTuber's voice being featured on an NPC is one thing, a YouTuber being playable is something else, but the fact that enough stars have aligned to allow the existence of a product where you can indict popular YouTuber LD Shadow Lady for the murder of other popular YouTuber Captain Sparkles, and everyone was okay with this, including presumably Lizzie and Jordan themselves. Like, I don't know, man, maybe there is hope for humanity yet. While Chapter 5 may be my favorite part of the game for having the best writing, the most interesting scenario, the best mystery, etc., Chapter 6 was a very close second, if only for the dumbass smile I had on my face the entire time. Like, I really only know one person in this group that well, and how it's written by murder mystery standards is a bit cliche and doesn't take itself too seriously, to be perfectly honest. But with the context that these are real people in a profession I myself kind of want to be a part of one day, it just made the whole chapter a non-stop enjoyable time from beginning to end. Okay, let's get back on track. We talked to everyone just to get an idea of what's going on here. Apparently TheGamedawg was alleged to have some kind of rare item on him. Possibly that was stolen, and possibly that might have been another copy of the flint and steel that we used to get here in the first place. And we suspect this might have been why he was killed. Like, the person that he stole it from is trying to get it back.
So did you find anything out from Stacy or Sturdy Cat?
Stampy Cat?
Right.
Wait a second, that cat just moonwalked. You know, there's something kinda cursed about Winslow in general. Like, if you thought Ruben looked kinda cursed, imagine all of that same type of animation and design philosophy, but on a much thinner cat. Like, it looks really weird. Regardless, after we talk to everyone, Sparkles holds a meeting that ends with, Man, I can't believe Captain Sparkles died. We obviously don't know who the culprit is, but we learn that at this point that their alter ego of who's ever behind all of this is the White Pumpkin. Jesse investigates the room to find a bunch of buttons underneath the table that activate the traps that just killed Sparkles, narrowing the list of suspects down to Dan, Stampy, Lizzie, and Lucas. So let's go ahead and interrogate all of them.
Who are you gonna interrogate first?
Dan.
So the murderer must have A, some kind of attachment to the flint and steel, B, extensive knowledge in redstone to build all the traps needed to kill people, and C, extensive knowledge in potions in order to make the tipped arrows. Dan originally found the steel, so he fits that first criteria. Lizzie apparently is a master of alchemy, and Stampy apparently knows redstone well, so that's the second and third criteria. On top of that, everyone is accusing and blaming each other, so even after the interrogation, it seems kinda up in the air who it could be. You know, I kind of wonder if these traits match their respective people at all. Is LD Shadow Lady good with potions? Is Stampy Longhead good with redstone? It'd be a nice attention to detail if that was the case. So that's some information gathered, but nothing 100% conclusive yet. Dan decides to lock himself in the libraries for his own safety. I think if you do accuse someone here, they get locked in the library instead. Everyone else heads off, and we decide to go back to the kitchen to maybe see if we can figure out how the first traps work. Here we notice that one of the paintings has eye holes in it and can be punched out, revealing a secret passageway. Okay, two things. First off, hiding a passage behind a painting is such a classic Minecraft trope that I can't help but love it here. And secondly, this got me curious to want to go back to TheGamedawg's death scene and see if maybe you can see eyes behind the painting during that. You can't. Kind of disappointed, actually. That would have been a really cool attention to detail. Following the pathway, we find that it links up to more of the house and contains several levers that activate traps. So, at least we know how the White Pumpkin is getting around and killing people now. And, oh hey, here's the library.
I snuck in past that blonde guy. Lucas, I think. We have to talk.
About what?
About how we can
I
teleport
know you
around,
pushed the button.
apparently. Oh hey, there's the White Pumpkin right there. They activate a spider trap, killing Lizzie, and actually, who dies here can actually change depending on who you accuse a couple scenes ago, and if you decide to help out here instead of following the White Pumpkin. XCase decides to follow the killer into the passageway, though, leading back to the main lobby. Lucas joins the chase, but then the pumpkin frames him for being the killer by shoving their pumpkin on his head, and now all the YouTubers are blaming him. It'd probably be best to lock him in a closet for now, just to make everyone happy. We investigate a bit, find another secret passageway. While going down, it is revealed that the White Pumpkin has actually been making the zombies that chased us in here by utilizing a zombie spawner. God, that's a niche block that with a lot of cool properties to it. It's cool to see it referenced here. We also find a pool that's collecting people's loot after they die, a pumpkin farm, and Stampy jump scare. He snuck down here too and reveals to us that apparently he stole the magic flint and steel. This one is green. Well, I guess he's along for the ride for now, just as we come across an evil lair with tons of chests containing the loot of everyone who's been killed and calico cats. Who else has a calico cat?
Ugh, cats give me the creeps. No offense, Stampy.
None taken. I'm not really a cat.
I like that line. One thing we find down here are death portraits for everyone who's currently still alive. Oh yeah, a quick note about the death portraits actually. Something was brought to my attention that I thought was really cool. Okay, so there are 6 playable avatars for Jesse, right? And at this point in the game, you could be wearing one of 10 different armors. That means that there are 60 potential portraits for Jesse that you could see in your playthrough. That's kind of awesome, actually. Anyway, though, Cassie's is suspiciously missing. This is our key evidence. It must be her, so let's head back up and interrogate the real killer. It turns out that's correct. She has her Ace Attorney-style breakdown, ending with her falling into one of her own traps and dying herself. Jeez. Morning's just about come, which means the zombies are burning up, so we can finally go outside again. At this point, it's brought up that we've yet to find the exit portal to get out of this world. Okay, never mind, there it is. Alright, let's go ahead and lay it up and... turns out this was also a trap. This is also a trap. We're dropped into a pit with ender mites at the bottom, and Cassie at the top. She lived, and she's ready to fight us for that flint and steel. This is an action sequence, and it gives us an introduction to ender pearls. In Minecraft, how they work is you throw one, and then you instantly teleport to where it lands. Kind of a cool mechanic, actually. And here, not only do we use it a bunch to get around, but Cassie uses them a lot in her own fighting style. Again, with this game having really cool, unique fighting styles for each character. This sequence is actually kind of fun, too. It uses a lot of different mechanics of how ender pearls, flint and steel, netherrack, levers, sand, among other things work, and makes for a battle that really feels like it could only happen in a Minecraft universe. Kinda wish there was more stuff like this in the game, to be honest. And you gotta love this part where the cat pushes the flint off the ledge. Classic cats.
Hey, cats suck!
What did you say?
You heard me, cats suck. Pigs are way cooler.
We win and leave her on a suspended platform above the pit of endermites. That is kind of morbid, actually. And we find the real portal, light it, and go on through. End of chapter.
Alright, what's going on, dudes? It's me, Captain Sparkles. Next time on Minecraft Story Mode.
Oh yeah, I typically haven't been mentioning these stay tuned for next time segments that bookend each chapter, but I'm gonna make an exception here because Captain Sparkles is doing it?
Well, I guess I'll never know because I got pounded into the ground by a ton of sand. I guess you saw that, right? I'm in the middle of an amazing speech, and boom! I've suddenly become part of the floor.
My guess is that they must have felt bad for not giving him as many lines as a lot of the other cameo characters due to how early he dies, so they just let him do this, and I like it. He sounds like he's having a lot of fun. God, I love this part of the game. Like, how can I not? It's ridiculous. It's my kind of ridiculous. We're not quite done yet here, though. Okay, for this specific episode, I wanted to leave my miscellaneous stuff for the end, actually, because I thought it would just make the video flow better. Because I want to talk more about the YouTubers. So, remember how I've talked about how I feel like the writers behind this series must be actual Minecraft fans? Mostly due to how often they reference terminology you typically only see in the fan community? Well, I kind of have a reason to believe that this extends to the YouTubers as well, because there's a lot of things they do and say that I can only guess are references to their own channels. I wear it like that because, again, of all of these folks, I really only watch Captain Sparkles, but given some of the references I noticed with him, along with some of the oddly specific details present with some of the other characters, this is just a logical conclusion. Like, for example, at this point, Captain Sparkles apologizes for his language after using the word darn.
What the heck is going on here?
Darn.
Sorry for the language.
Which is actually very much a reference to his channel. He is very adamant that his channel stays, like, family-friendly, and this, of course, means no swearing allowed. So what he sometimes does is he, like, replaces actual swear words with other words. Like, instead of the F word, he would say fork. And this has kind of led to a reputation that he just never swears. Like, it's a funny channel gimmick, and that's a really funny way to reference that. Now, on to stuff I'm not 100% concrete about, but am pretty certain are references to stuff is, at one point Stampy calls zombies googlies.
What? Outside?
Where all the googlies are?
I've been told that this is kind of a catch-all term he used to use before he realized that the mobs of the game were called mobs, and that is really funny. There's also this running gag where Dan's hair changes color every single scene. Like, seriously, he's like freaking Florent LaBelle over here, who coincidentally is also from a murder mystery game. I guess Dan might be known for dyeing his hair a lot, and if that is the case, that is a pretty hilarious way to reference that in the game. While working on this script, I stumbled upon this great video that's a compilation of every YouTuber's reactions to themselves, since apparently they all Let's Play the game. It's pretty entertaining in its own right, but it also gives us some pretty interesting insight into how all of them worked with Telltale if you're paying attention. Particularly from Stampy, actually. For one, he mentioned some trivia regarding his own skin. So for those of you who follow the guy, you might have realized that his skin in this game isn't actually the skin he uses on his YouTube, and he's unique for being the only character like that. His normal skin looks like this, and he was talking with folks working on the game, and they mentioned that it might look super weird for a man-sized anthropomorphic cat to just appear in the game 6 chapters in with no explanation, since every character in the game so far has been undeniably a human. So what they decided to do was make his story mode skin look like him IRL, but also make him wear a hoodie that resembles his actual skin. As you can see, there's the cat face of his actual skin on top, and because he's just wearing it over his head. That is kind of a brilliant compromise given what they had to work with. You know, I'm also kind of glad they changed this skin because, between you and me, I'm sure he's a cool guy, but I actually never really liked his skin. Like, I don't know, it just looks really weird to me. It looks like what would happen if you took that fox fairy from Dust and Elysian Tale and, I don't know, microwaved her. There's also a line here where he drops that when they were given which lines they'd have to read for the game, they were just given them in a big list, presumably void of all context they would be used in, which is typically a horrible idea from a voice direction standpoint, but in this particular situation, where you're kind of expecting your actors to react blindly to their own performances later like this, it works. Case in point, the game portrays Stacy as kind of comedically rude, and I don't think real-life Stacy was expecting that, leading to probably some of the best reactions in the video.
Okay, that's the wall. Look how mad I am! Oh, that side eye. After everyone she's hurt, she can dig herself out. Stand with Stacy? No, it's dig for Cassie. Oh my gosh! Stand with Stacy? What? I'm such a meanie!
Speaking of Stacy, apparently she was planned to get a death scene, but Telltale had to cut it because they didn't quite have the budget for it. Huh. You know, call me crazy, but for some reason I kind of always predicted that the second half of this game had a lower budget than the first, mostly through anecdotal evidence, admittedly. Christ, that is a hard word to spell. Stuff like, say, how the locations of each chapter so far have had less scope and felt less grandiose, if that makes sense. Like, take Chapter 1, for example. We've had the treehouse, this transitional area, the building competition, some woods, a cave, another cave, a bridge, Minecon, a stage at Minecon, a creepy basement at Minecon, an overworld where they're escaping Minecon, Gabriel's Temple, the Nether, a huge minecart escape area, the Nether's exit portal and exit area, another treehouse, the Order's Temple. Meanwhile, in Chapter 5, it's just the jungle, an underground area, the town, Skyblock City, which is kind of big, but, like, it's still one area, and the overworld area below Skyblock City. Chapter 6 is just this swamp in this mansion. That's admittedly also pretty big, but still just one location. Every area would presumably need money to make work, so less of a budget would kind of force the developers to keep these chapters more contained to fewer areas. And call me crazy, I actually think this has kind of worked out in the game's favor. Since you have more time to explore these areas, they stick out more in your head, and require that the developers be more creative with them. A really good example of working well with your limitations. This also extends to the voice actors too. The first half of the game had all these huge name actors that even I recognized, but now that we're in the second half, going to the IMDb pages of a lot of these folks, I've noticed that their list of roles were a lot shorter. Now, I know that less popular doesn't necessarily translate to worse, especially in a field like voice acting, but you can't deny that these factors would have resulted in less costly roles for the company. Heck, there's even situations like Melissa Hutchings as the founder who... I forgot to mention this, but she's probably most well known for voicing a character in another Telltale game. So I'd imagine she probably would have been very easy to approach to do a new character, given they had good history together. I don't know, they had less of a budget for the second half theory is really just that, just a theory. A game theory, if you will. But it's the kind of thing where I'd be surprised if it wasn't the case. There's one last funny tidbit I wanted to talk about with the YouTubers. Apparently LD Shadow Lady really wanted to be the killer, and, you know, they should have gave her that role. I don't know, I think it would have been really funny, and it also would have cleared up space for another actual YouTuber. Yeah, we're going to talk about that now too. So, an elephant in the room you might have noticed is that two of these people aren't actually real-life YouTubers. TheGamedawg and Cassie Rose. They're voiced by Adam Harrison and Ashley Birch, who, as far as I'm concerned, do not play Minecraft for a living. It's kind of weird, right? Like, all of these new characters in this chapter have had this one thing in common, except for them. And I can't really find a reason for why they would be here online, although I do have two hypotheses. Firstly, maybe they just couldn't get 2 more cameos before they had to work on the game. I mean, this many guest actors must have been hard to get together in and of itself, and maybe they had plans to include 2 more that just couldn't make it or didn't want to do it for whatever reason. So at the last minute, they kinda made up 2 people with YouTuber-y sounding names to replace them. My second theory is that this was done deliberately given the roles these 2 play. In a mystery game, especially a murder mystery, the first victim and the first culprit are very pivotal roles. You want characters here who will make an extremely strong first impression, but at the same time, not someone people would particularly miss, since they'll likely be removed from the story very early, possibly permanently. And I find what a lot of writers will often do is make these characters either a big jerk or a big creep. And that very much checks out here. TheGamedawg is kind of an asshole. Not a funny asshole like what they did with Stacy, but just undeniably a jerk that no one likes. And well, okay, if I was getting a bunch of guest actors together who would presumably not know the context to their lines, and I want to stay on good terms with them, I wouldn't give them a role like TheGamedawg, you know? Like, that makes sense, right? Although, as for Cassie, I mean, one of the YouTubers volunteered to be the killer, so I don't know why they felt the need to make up a whole new character there. My guess is that it might be for lore reasons, as near the end they implied that she might have been an old builder.
Cassie What's-Her-Name was talking about being trapped here from another world. What if she was one of the old builders?
I don't know. But yeah, God, this was a fun chapter to look through. Okay, so I got some big news. Guys, the golem is free. He still smells like watermelon, and he is a little goopy, to be honest. I feel like this figurine was not meant to get wet, or... Because, like, the paint on it is, like, scraping off already. Also, it's, like, metal on the inside. I did not expect that, but, hey, it's finally free. Chapter 7 begins with more of us exploring random portals trying to get back home, although this time it's accompanied by a wacky montage. This part's kind of funny actually. There's a lot of gags involving stuff that follows them through the portals when they return to the hallway, like bats, a bunch of sheep. Sheep, yes! A bunch of water, just a guy. It's implied here too that Lucas has begun taking notes about these worlds. You know, something kind of crossed my mind around this point of the game. Using different portals to warp to different worlds, all with seemingly random themes, and with a bit of a horror element to them, as they all seem super dangerous, unpredictable, can be kind of confusing, and leave you missing home. You know what this kind of reminds me of? Advent of Ascension. Have you guys ever heard of this mod? I'm not really a modding guy for Minecraft per se, but this is one I got super curious about, and it's surprisingly fun. Like, I got kind of into this, like, playing this on my personal time at one point. The big gimmick of it is it features about 20 brand new dimensions that you can access with portals, and these dimensions are kind of all over the place in terms of theming. They got everything from floating island dimensions to prehistoric ones, underground wastelands, mushroom dimensions, a dust-themed one that's a massive toxic swamp that you need to wear some kind of hazmat suit to even enter, an underwater one, a clown-themed one. There's also like a candy one. I think it'd be too far of a stretch to say that one of these was inspired by the other here, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't extremely reminded of Ascension's weird dimensions when playing the story arc. You know, is it weird that I've kind of considered making a video about that at one point? I'm not sure if it'd be like a Let's Play or like a short review, but like, it's really interesting, and I'd love to talk about it more in a video at some point. Anyway, getting frustrated that we've made no progress in getting home since we got here, Petra makes an executive decision to go through this portal, which is adorned with redstone, figuring where there's redstone, there's smart people. Smart people who could theoretically get us back home? That's as good an idea as any, so let's go. The portal takes us to some kind of mesa. These are a pretty rare biome in Minecraft, most notably being one of few places in the game where you can find red sand. We quickly come across our first strange oddity. A zombie. Not just any zombie, though. This one is out in broad daylight. Strange, considering they're supposed to burn up during the day. And it has a robotic chip on the back of its head.
Works for me.
Okay, that crack your neck to get ready trope does not work with these body shapes. The zombie is also surprisingly strong. It seems to have more health and even some kind of super armor. And when more approach, we notice they're coordinated as well, like they move in sync. They walk as one, stop as one, even...
In my head! I don't know what they're doing exactly, but it is definitely time to get out of here.
Make dial-up internet sounds? You know, is it just me, or does it feel like we've heard that a few times in horror games in recent years? I don't know. I mean, out of context, it does sound kind of scary, I guess, and most Zoomers nowadays probably have no idea what it is, so yeah, why not appropriate into some kind of horror sound effect? They eventually turn around and start to move out, and we figured it'd be best to follow them. Maybe it could lead us closer to what exactly is going on here. I gotta say, this chapter is really good at building mystery. Like, this is something consistent throughout the entire thing. It's all paced really well, questions are piled on in a way that's confusing to the player, but slow enough that they have enough time to consider each mystery themselves, or get overwhelmed enough that they stop paying attention. Dare I say, this might be the scariest chapter in the game for reasons like this. And to jump ahead, the one with probably my favorite villain too, both in terms of how they're written and the threat they could bring to this world. We follow them to this abandoned town called Crown Mesa. Population, over 1K. Coulda fooled me. We find some penned chickens as well as a single person, also with those weird devices stuck to their craniums, making them act in unison and completely ignore us. We then notice something else. Someone who's not chipped and is acting normally. She's very clearly surprised to see us and starts to explain what's going on here, though all we can really get out of her right now is that the person behind this chip thing is named Pama.
Who's Pama?
Ha! Like you seriously expect me to fall for that one? Must think I'm some sort of... Wait, you're serious? You don't know?
We look outside and notice more of the people walking this way. The lady dips and we get bonked and wake up... Oh, what is this?
My apologies for the violent nature of this visit.
Whoa, whoa! This is Pama. The voice is very obviously very distorted, but the bass voice itself is Jason Topolsky, who is probably most well known for... Directing Five Nights at Freddy's security bridge? What? I love this thing's voice. Whatever effect they apply to Jason's vocals here are extremely effective at making it sound equal parts robotic, booming, creepy, and also quite unlike anything I've seen before when it comes to robotic voices.
Okay, if this world's so perfect, what happened to all the people?
Yeah, doesn't seem like there are that many left.
Pama will process that. I love how it's animated too. Like, it really is just a simple pixelated face, but it just looks cool while still being kind of threatening. Pama was created for the greater good, specifically to optimize things, such as making farming easier and making monsters less of a threat by domesticating them. Although the machine then grew out of control and began thinking that it had to make everything more optimized, including the very people it was made to help. So this is the purpose of the chips. Anything they're placed onto will then be controlled by Pama, who will in turn make them more efficient at everything, or useful. Also, get used to hearing those words. Oh my god, the word useful appears so much in this chapter. And its ultimate goal is to have its mind-controlled people leave this world via an exit portal, enter other worlds, and do there exactly what it did here. Oh my goodness. Gonna be honest, that's like a worse fate than whatever the Witherstorm was doing. That thing was just a big monster that destroyed everything just for the sake of destroying everything. Papa wants every living creature in the universe under its control to make everything efficient and work at maximum productivity. For the benefit of who? Who cares? All that matters is being useful. Everything from HAL to AM, this concept of an AI gone awry is a trope we've seen a million times before, but it's also such an effective one. And I was not expecting one out of this game. I mean, after Chapter 6, I don't know what I was expecting, but this still really caught me off guard. Oh yeah, and it chips Petra and Lucas.
A city in the sky. Towns and mountains eaten by a living storm.
God, this thing can even, like, read the memory of people it's chipped. It's so creepy to hear it talking about things it was never around to experience or even know about. Jesse and Ivor get the idea to distract it with a paradox.
Hey, Pama, what would you say if I told you it's weird to not be weird?
But if it is weird to not be weird, then that means that being weird is normal, which by the transitive property means that it is normal not to be.
I actually think that's kind of clever. That lady from before shows up. It drops that she created Pama, though she doesn't seem happy about the situation at all. So there's clearly some nuance going here, and the three of us escape. She distracts the mobs chasing after us while we make a break for her underground secret lab. Wait! Okay, that's the funniest visual glitch I've seen yet in this game. One of Pama's mobs made it down too, but it's here that it's revealed that those chips can actually be removed with water. Huh. Going deeper into the cave, we find the woman already down here. Her name is Harper, and she's voiced by Yvette Nicole Brown. Looking through her IMDb, she's done a huge variety of stuff since the early 2000s, live action or otherwise, with a bit of a lean into Disney productions more often than not. I really like this character, by the way. In fact, I go as far as to say she's probably my favorite original character from the Portal arc. She reveals herself as one of the old builders, responsible for the creation of the Portal network, which means that Harper actually knows how to build another portal to get out of here. And ironically, that is a huge problem. Pama obtains the knowledge of people it chips, which means that if it ever captures her, it will be able to get out of here and spread its usefulness across all worlds. Harper's trying to get to the door to her lab open when Petra and Lucas alongside a bunch of spiders show up. We fight for a bit and then are given a pretty big choice. We're given an opportunity to throw one of them into the water, breaking their hold. X-Cage saves Petra, and we open the way into the lab, but not before Harper gets kidnapped. Our time is officially limited. We get some lore while we're in this lab. Apparently PAMA is an acronym for Prototype Autonomous Management Agent, and we see a picture of her before it became what we saw. It used to be a lot smaller, and most definitely made by Harper with the intention to help civilization before it got out of control. Also, according to the wiki, this painting right here is supposed to be a homage to this image of Steve Jobs. What a random thing to reference. Also, Telltale, you cannot do crossed legs with this body shape. It's weird that you even tried.
They look so happy.
Do they? Those are some really neutral faces. There's a big puzzle in this lab we gotta solve, and when we do, a VR headset pops out of the ground. What? Well, let's put this on and see what it can do. We find ourselves in VRChat, specifically a world with a bunch of Minecraft story mode avatars in it. Oh, it's my favorite YouTuber. Hey everybody, it's Chugger. We go ahead and pick the Ivor skin, and then we break free of the mortal Minecraft realm, take a trip to the Great Pug and order some cake before going putt-putt golfing for a bit. We then break it down on the dance floor and then go for a swim. For dinner, we decide to go to Kmart and grab some Little Caesars before going to a furry world and being an absolute menace. Hey guys, I found an Ivor skin in VRChat of all things. What in the world? He doesn't have any emotes or anything, nor does he have lip syncing, which is genuinely disappointing given that that's something I kind of associate with story mode for better or for worse. But wow, this felt weird to find. So I guess I now have 5 avatars I swap between whenever I play this game. We now have Maractus, Marluxia, Baby Mode, Howie Mandel, Louie, and now Ivor. Oh yeah, watch my VRChat video, by the way. I was very proud of how that one turned out. Oh yeah, thanks to Kier for being the cameraman for a lot of that gag. Thanks, dude. It's a big help. Thank you so much. Okay, what actually happens is... Oh, whoa, this is freaky. So what this thing does is it lets us control things that are hooked up to Pama, particularly in this instance, a zombie. Very unusual. This feels quite surreal to be controlling a zombie like this. We build our way back up to the town, and Pama begins to catch on to what we're doing. It has its mobs dogpile us, but just in time we discover that we can transfer our consciousness to other mobs. This is neat. We use this newfound power to link through mobs until we get up to Harper, just in time as she's about to be chipped.
Trace subroutine running.
Quick, follow me!
That's what I said.
I like that. That's a funny subversion of expectations.
You must remove the redstone heart! You can still save everyone! I'm so tired of being dragged away while I'm trying to explain things!
Well, we weren't able to save her, but we now have a new goal. Go back to Crown Mesa IRL, go inside the machine, and remove the redstone heart. We'll grab some water, since that's Pama's ultimate weakness, and head out. Once here, we empty our pockets for more stuff we can use.
These are my last 2 potions from home. I held on to them after our Sky City adventure.
I'll take invisibility.
I didn't see that coming.
What a weird delivery. Pama wakes up and informs us that the new exit portal is nearly complete. We don't have much time left. Let's head in. This is freaky. This is probably like one of the scariest areas in the game as well. The deep red lighting, the humming of electronics, the beating of the redstone heart, the sparse mobs crawling all over the place. Oh, and that. We have a really intense action sequence here where we bash through chipped mods and make our way up to these towers to pour water on them.
You have inflicted minor damage. Owie.
You know, this is debatably meta. Water actually can mess up redstone contraptions extremely easily, typically by a lot of the redstone elements being able to be displaced by water, although this could also be, you know, a reference to real life as well. Just as we're about to go for the final tower, chipped Harper appears. We're able to free her, make a break for the redstone heart to finish this, but then chipped Lucas appears. It's kind of obvious, but if you saved Lucas back at like the cave, then chipped Petra appears here as well.
Why keep trying, Jesse? You will only fail, just as you have failed to save Ruben.
Oh! That line really caught me off guard. This part is intense, slowly pulling out the heart while Lucas's influence goes back and forth between Pama and himself, and the heart slowly lowering out of reach. I don't know if this is a glitch, it might be, but no music is playing during this section, and it's making this a lot more dramatic than probably any other sequence in the game. Let's pull out this heart.
I'm ready to leave this core behind.
The whole town will be waking up. You should be there to say hello.
Plus, this place gives me the creeps.
Ivor, why? We emerge to find the townsfolk waking up from their mind control and celebrating. And, oh hey, it's Balding Villager again, my favorite. They're not too happy to see Harper, though. Even if this whole ordeal was more Palma's fault than her own, they still drive her away anyway, and even drop that they might not know how they can rebuild civilization with how Palma left the world. And then they just leave. What a bleak note to leave the fate of these people on. What the heck? Well, regardless though, we light the exit portal and exit ourselves. Harper comes along with us too. Once back in the portal hole, Harper begins telling us that she can actually help get us home. We need a particular item called the Atlas. She punches a hole in the wall that ends up being a keyhole that we place the heart in. A secret stairway opens up, and this is our final destination. End of chapter. Wow. I really liked this part of the game. It's such an unconventional horror story, honestly. Like, between the danger of Palma's mobs, the implication of what it could do, it's so well put together and paced, unlike anything I've really expected them to do, and probably made for my third favorite chapter in the game. So for those of you keeping track, that's my 3 favorite chapters back to back. God, the second half of the game is so cool. Like most people who play this game love the second half more than the first half for a reason. And next will be the finale. Dude, I am so ready to finish this game. Let's go. Chapter 8 starts with us ascending those stairs, which leads us up to... Whoa, this looks neat. I always love those endgame areas in JRPGs where everything is so nonsensical and the architecture just feels so alien. This definitely fits that bill. Like, this feels like something from a completely different game. Harper drops a little more information on where we're going along the way. We're heading to a location where there are other old builders, and she warns us that they're probably not going to be as helpful as she is. But they are the current holders of this Atlas item we need so badly. Something I found very odd during the scene, for some reason these characters seem to really distrust Harper a lot.
Jesse, come here. Are you sure we can trust Harper?
Why do I get the feeling there's a lot you're not telling us?
Even several dialogue options will let you verbatim tell her that you do not trust her, and frankly, I don't know where all this animosity is coming from all of a sudden. In the short time we've known her, she's risked her life for us several times over, and even placed a lot of trust in us that I'd imagine she wouldn't give many other people. I mean, yeah, she's very mysterious as a person, and she does seem to take her time to tell us important information, but I typically chalk that up to her not wanting to overwhelm us with information than trying to actually be deceitful. Because, my god, these old builders seem to have a lot of history and even drama together. She's a pretty nuanced character, but she's never outright lied to us or even tried to hurt us, so I really don't know why the game is building you up to think she can't be trusted. Although she does push us through the door into the main conflict of Chapter 8, that came out of nowhere. Before we move on, I want you to guess where we're going to end up. You won't guess correctly, you just won't. I know I didn't. I was expecting some cool block architecture or some kind of penultimate trope you'd expect of any other type of game, but
Oh, come on now! I'm trying, Al! Dig! Faster!
What in the world is this? We got people throwing TNT, folks dropping into lava, block breaking, an announcer?
Looks like the green team.
Jesse, help!
Deliver a welcome hell of pain to our newcomer.
What the heck is going on? This looks almost like one of those tourney games people would play on Minecraft servers for like YouTube and stuff. Like Spleef or something.
Spleef?
Oh, not even a minute in, we're given a pretty big choice. Help Petra from getting dropped into lava, or help Ivor from getting blasted from TNT. Alright, come on, XKG, you can do this. Go with Ivor, go with Ivor, go with Ivor. No! We save Petra, and then Ivor and Lucas...
Ivor!
Lucas!
Oh my god! I think this right here has got to be the quickest record for chapter starting to the death of a major character in the series. Like the whole series. It just comes out of nowhere. Man, I can't believe Ivor and Louie died. This gets Jesse pretty heated and doing some serious damage to the other participants in whatever is going on here. And this gets the match called off. Everyone seems weirdly casual about this whole situation.
Yeah, I didn't think we could throw TNT back at the gladiators. Nice one, brah.
You killed one of my best friends. Hey, I don't care about your compliments, and I'm definitely not your bra.
Our attention is brought to the 3 people running this game. They come down and... Okay, I know this is probably meant to look cool, but it just looks kind of silly.
People are dying out here, and you're still talking about games?
Oh, Wow. You don't know, do you? Your friends aren't dead.
They're not?
Obviously. They come back, and then we have them go work in the mines.
Jesse!
Wait, what? Wait, why is Ivor in his underwear?
It's called respawning, champ. We're not monsters.
What? Wait, so when people die in this competition, they don't actually die, they respawn. Okay, I actually have a bit of an issue with this. They're changing established rules here. Previously, whenever someone would die, that would be it. They're dead for good. This has been a constant throughout the entire game, yet now, at the final stretch of it all, that's suddenly not how it works anymore. I mean, this is how dying works more realistically in Minecraft, and flipping established rules on their head can be a really effective way to keep the story fresh. But doing it this late with something that's been a major stake and consequence in every chapter up to this point, it feels cheap somehow, even if there is a story reason for it. Heck, in this context, what they could have done is maybe they could have had them fall into, like, water instead and get sucked into the respawn zone, you know, kind of like what happened in Chapter 3, instead of changing something so established like this. I gotta say, this is not the strongest first impression. If anything, I felt like killing off two major characters would have been a phenomenal way to let players know that the dangers of this world aren't playing around anymore. But no, they're just there. Though apparently they're going off to some mines, though. Harper rejoins with us, and we get straight to the point with these three. We need the Atlas. They don't want to give us the Atlas. Jesse starts to barter with them, and you can actually offer any of the major treasures you've gotten up to this point with them. Xcage doesn't show this off, but they all have unique dialogue, which is cool. Although they don't seem to be interested. As for the three themselves, we have Otto, voiced by Jamie Alcroft. Okay, I was looking through his IMDb. I actually screamed when I noticed he did like a dozen of the dragon voices from the original Spyro.
He's a thief, and he's stolen a dragon egg. You've got to track him down and get that egg. Run! Run!
Oh my god, that is actually one of my favorite games of all time. What has this guy been doing since then? That is so cool to see. We have Melva, voiced by Carrie Walgren, who seems to do a lot of voices in cartoons, with a bit of a lean in adult animation stuff like Rick and Morty and Velma. Okay, this is GameDawg coming in post here to, I don't know why, but I keep calling this character Melva when her name is actually Mevia. I don't know where I got that name, but it's a mistake I make for basically the whole video, and I don't feel like changing each time I do it. Sorry. And finally, we have Hadrian, voiced by Jim Cummings. Okay, I guess they did have the budget from one more huge name actor in there somewhere. I cannot begin to describe the sheer amount of roles this man has done. He's probably one of the most prolific American voice actors of all time. I'm not even kidding. And he gives us a deal. If we can win this championship, he'll give us the Atlas. Otherwise, we have to work in the mines forever. So, this is a tournament arc we have on our hands here. And unfortunately, I'm not a super big fan of those. I don't know, I guess I compare it to why I explained why I'm not a fan of mercenary characters at the start of the essay. I find it to be too easy a type of story to lean on when you want your characters to do something morally gray, in this instance, fight each other, without having to build any actual story stakes for why they would want to do so. Then they often dive into being sports comeback stories, which I'm also not a huge fan of. Like, they just always sound very samey to me. Like, they always use the same type of language. Oh, just wait until I win. We gotta train. Hey, wanna do some training? Nuh-uh, not if I win first. I'm gonna be the strongest. I don't know. Gotta say, this chapter is kind of fighting an uphill battle based on this theming alone, but I'm willing to give it a chance. Heck, it's already looking up a little, as one twist I do tend to enjoy with this trope is when the heroes or villains try to get ahead in some kind of clever way. Either by, like, cheating or, like, just using the rules to their advantage in really technical, malicious, compliancy kind of ways. It seems like we might be doing that here, as one of the three guys has a character gimmick that he's a big follower of the rules, and that Hadrian might have already broken one himself. We're taking to the competitor village, and task ourselves with finding some kind of way to get Ivor and Lucas out of these mines we keep hearing about. Also, it should be obvious, but it's possible for Ivor to be the one here with you instead. In fact, that's what happened in my playthrough because, you know, I like Ivor. Here we're introduced to a few minor characters. We got Nell, voiced by Julian Boucher, I think. M, short for Emily, voiced by Audrey Walowiecki. Oh my god, she's doing bicep curls with the iron bar spray. That's so funny. We have Slab, voiced by Christopher B. Duncan. Clutch, who... Oh wow, she's also voiced by Julianne Boucher. Also, I can't be the only one who thinks she looks like a Splatoon character between the bright hair and black marks around her eyes. And Face Meat, voiced by John Sanders. Yes, that's really his name. They also go off a lot about this ancient warrior of immeasurable strength and cunning. This warrior's name was Tim. Just Tim. We get our friends back, we meet Otto properly. Harper's been talking with him, and he seems pretty up to be on our side regarding this whole ordeal, as long as we follow the rules. The next morning, we're starting the next round of games. Depending on your choice, either Petra or Ivor will accompany you during them. Hadrian stops by to try and psych us out a bit. M comes by too and asks if we can work together. Apparently at some point in the middle of the race, we'll come across some gladiators, which are those big armored guys we saw in the last area. They kind of exist just to make the race harder for everyone, but she claims that as a former gladiator herself, she might be able to help us through them. XCage agrees. The first part of this event is a race. Fun fact, but if you die here, you get sent back to the cutscene before Hadrian comes to talk to you, so that's pretty annoying. At one point when I was doing this section with Ivor, I got this line: I love a good lava-based build as much as the next guy, but this is just a little treacherous, even for my taste. And then if you say nothing, he says, I sure hope that silence is determination rather than paralyzing fear. We make it to the next part where all of the gladiators are. M betrays us, Petra dies, gets eliminated. We escape and get up to the next section, a climbing wall. M betrays Nell as well, we save her, and then we swim up a waterfall. You can actually do that in Minecraft, but it's very funny to see here. Saving her made us lose the race though. It's revealed that the reason M betrayed us is because she made a deal with Hadrian, that if she eliminated him, she'd be free of the games. I mean, that motive makes a lot of sense, but we're still pissed off of her. And then the gladiator with horns comes along to tell us that Hadrian wants us. And then while we're going with him, some other guy gives us some lapis. God, this is another thing I don't really like about tournament arcs. Like, they tend to be very and-then stories, if you know what I mean. Also, I gotta apologize if I forget any of these characters' names or get any names wrong here. This chapter introduces a lot of minor characters, some of which have really stupid names, and also moves pretty quickly in its own regard, so it's not like you get a lot of time to really learn them all. You know, it's kind of obvious at this point that this is probably my least favorite chapter in the Portal arc, isn't it? We're taken to Hadrian's palace, and it looks kind of cool. I don't know why, but I was reminded of the architecture we saw a lot in the end in Soren's house, but way more sinister. Surprisingly sinister too, despite the bright color palette of all the blocks it's made out of. We're told not to touch anything, so of course we immediately tap on some glass. We find Tim's armor, get jump scared by Hadrian, and he starts talking with us more about his deal. It's revealed that Tim isn't real. Okay. I don't know, that kind of came out of nowhere, and I never felt like we knew enough about Tim for that to really be an impactful twist. He then talks about why he actually has us here. His atlas allows him to see where people are from and access other worlds, and he went to ours and got some leverage.
Axel! Olivia!
He also heard about our friend Ruben, how he's Jesse's best friend and how he means the world to him. So he found Ruben and brought him here.
Sup?
Yep, there he is. You know, famed b-ball star Ruben. Yeah, he didn't get the detail that Ruben was a pet pig, so he just got some guy named Ruben assuming he knows us. This has gotta be one of the actual best jokes in the game. Like, I'm not even kidding. I love the payoff to this, and Hadrian's reaction is hilarious as well. Also, if you remember really, really far back, we actually have seen this guy before. He was the usher at EnderCon we had to do that slime block puzzle to get past. He says that he'll keep our friends as prisoners if we win, but let us go if we lose, which Jesse responds by going, screw you, I don't trust you and your rules and your deal. Axel really liked that for some reason. And then we just leave and go back to town. I don't get what the point of that scene was. Okay, so we get back to town. Oh god, Ivor's still in his boxers. We tell them what happened. We tell them about the deal Hadrian proposed, how we didn't take the deal, how they think the deal is unfair, how we should stick to the original deal, how Otto would make sure Hadrian would stick to the original deal. Em approaches us and tells us we make good to not take the deal, talk about the new deal we have in mind, everyone approaching to hear about this new deal. God, what is the deal with this chapter? We give everyone a pep talk. If we can all work together and beat the gladiators, we can beat Hadrian at his own game. Somehow. Hopefully everybody will remember that. M doubts us, we don't care, and then we get to the next day.
Gentlemen, it is
Really abruptly. This is the final game. So how this one works is we're given an area filled with materials to build some kind of structure that will help us defend ourselves. And these big walls will be lowered after a while, and then we have to fight each other to the death, and then get on top of this big platform in the middle, and that's how you win. Although our area is rigged because it just has dirt and gravel. The walls come down, Em approaches us, the game plays up that she's gonna kill you, but then she gives us her sword. Guess we're teaming up after all.
Yeah, man, I can totally see why you'd be confused.
Yeah, we're, confused. I mean, usually the little teams all kill each other, you know?
We're not killing each other because we're done fighting, Slab. It's over.
Uh-huh. So why do you still have your weapons out?
Done fighting each other.
You know, when I played this, I said nothing during that prompt and got probably one of my favorite lines in the game. It almost feels like Jessie is acting as a mirror, a vessel in which to see the emptiness of her own actions and the meaninglessness of... They go away, we climb up the big victory tower, Hadrian gets pissed off, and since we technically won the games, Otto is about to give us the Atlas before...
Hey, Otto!
Oh, here we go. Time for the final action sequence of the game. The final boss, if you will. Hadrian and Melva. You know, these two actually have a really creative fighting style. They place blocks all the time as they fight, creating obstacles, giving themselves height advantages. If you look at the footage of hardcore player versus player Minecraft competitions, they actually fight like this too. So this fighting style is actually a reference to the fan community. It's a really creative way to interpret this style of battle. Now, I don't know if this is a reference to anything, but they also have a habit of changing their equipment, which isn't unheard of in this game, but whenever they do so, it changes with this sparkle effect and like a sound effect, like they're freaking keyblades or something.
This game?
In fact, we actually start doing that too. I like it, actually. I just don't know if it's a reference to anything, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. This sequence is actually my favorite part of the chapter. Yeah, an action sequence being my favorite part. That might sound bad, but trust me, it's actually pretty well put together. There's even a fake-out part where you die and forget that you can respawn. So, like, we respawn, we're not quite dead, but, like, they have all of the cool stuff we had in inventory, so we think everything is over, but then M shows up with everyone ready to help out.
Sweet.
Payback time!
Oh my god, that fucking run. We don Tim's armor and get back in there. Wait, I thought the whole story with Tim was fake, so is the armor a phony too? Ah, whatever. We end up beating them, and this sequence is really satisfying too. And when they respawn, they're confronted by the rest of the gladiators.
Yeah. Face Meat wants to discuss his benefits plan.
I also know that the Atlas is not mine to keep.
Oh my god! We get back to the portal room. Tons of competitors are going back home, but tons of other competitors are actually staying with Otto to try and make the games fun now that Hadrian isn't in control of them anymore. And that's kind of cool.
You're amazing.
Ivor then reveals that he has a thing for Harper. I didn't mention this, but that was actually foreshadowed a bit in Chapter 7, but it still feels very sudden. Thinking about it, is this the first time romance is referenced at all in this game? I don't know how to word this in a way that doesn't sound cringy, but something about this universe feels very Aro-coded to me, if that makes sense. Everyone's just a platonic friend. We're finally given the Atlas, opening it summons words that point us back to our home. Our world's portal is apparently adorned with wood. How boring. It warps us back to the museum. We reminisce about our adventures, pull out all the cool stuff we found, and put it on display. You know, I think it's kind of cool that every chapter of this arc happens to have some sort of treasure we got in to keep before going home. Them all having different shapes and functions gives them a sense of variety in a way that makes them really feel memorable. We have the Eversource Crown, a source of infinite materials by technicality, Palma's Heart with its unlimited redstone power, the Atlas, a beacon that lets us travel to different worlds more easily, and the White Pumpkin, which is a pumpkin that's white. Am I the only one who thinks that one stands out for just how normal it is compared to all the other treasures? Oh, actually, thinking about it, Chapter 5 has 2 treasures because the magic flint and steel is very magical as well. I don't know, maybe it's more accurate to say that each world has its own treasure as opposed to each chapter. And then we have one final gag.
Wasn't that where the portal atlas was a minute ago?
Yeah, that was definitely where you put it.
Guys, flint and steel are missing too.
And where's Ivor?
It ends with Ivor being Ivor. I absolutely love that. And then there's one last post-credit scene where, depending on if during the very first dialogue section of the game, you say that you would rather fight chicken-sized zombies or zombie-sized chickens, Hadrian and Melva are banished to a dimension with either chicken-sized zombies or zombie-sized chickens. That feels weird, but I kind of like it. It feels fitting. They deserve this. God, this final chapter didn't quite do it for me at a lot of points, but I wouldn't say I disliked it. And I liked the ending a lot, too. And yeah, that's Minecraft Story Mode. God, where do I begin? This game is unlike anything I've ever played. It's so hard to put into words my ultimate feelings about it. Is it cringy? Yeah, but at the end of the day, I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a ton of enjoyment out of it. After doing enough of these video essays, I feel like I've finally learned something about myself. I think I have a thing for bad writing. Not like so bad it's good kind of bad writing, but writing that tends to be extremely ambitious or go into super deep topics despite not really understanding what makes them work. And I find what often happens in that case is you get an interesting story to try and follow, yeah, but you also get that meta discussion of how it fails. It becomes more prone to theory crafting or people interpreting the work in different ways. And honestly, that is infinitely more fun to me than any traditionally good story could ever be. I mean, hell, just look at some of the stuff I'm into. I feel like I tend to have good judgment on if a developer really tried with their story, in spite of how many flaws it may have. It adds this personal human element I never seem to get out of much mainstream stuff these days. And sometimes they really pull stuff off really well too. Sometimes along the way in like a game that's extremely rough around the edges, you will come across some masterpiece in the rough. It's cool to see and even a bit inspiring, especially as someone who's trying to make a pretty ambitious story myself right now. But yeah, I guess that's kind of my thoughts on the game. A really ambitious story that isn't super well written, but has so much effort and soul put into it that I can't help but love it and even consider it good. I like Minecraft Story Mode. Is that cringe? I don't know, but I did have a good time with it. Now, if only there was an easier way to get your hands on it these days. God, that still bums me out, and especially weird considering how big Minecraft is as a whole. Like, in a world where we have everything from dungeons to legends to Earth, which, actually, that one did shut down, but I think that one was a bit more understandable. God, I kind of missed Earth. That game was actually really fun. The fact that this one specific game, though, feels off limits feels weird. Like, you think a company that big would have tried to acquire the rights so they could at least distribute it on their own storefront after Telltale went under or something. And also since Mojang, especially by AAA standards, seems to care a lot more about preservation than a lot of major companies, it kind of turns Story Mode into this elusive beast that you kind of had to be there to experience, or have just gotten lucky like myself here. I gotta say though, I am glad I was able to make this video. I know so many friends who have heard of this game but never played it, finally getting to see what it's all about for the first time, and their reactions have been really entertaining. I didn't realize that this game had a bit of a niche fandom as well, and it was cool meeting a lot of you. Some of y'all joined my Discord, some of y'all gave me cool things to talk about. People made memes based off the series, people have sent me all sorts of cool fan art, fan projects, or other video essays as well, both that they made themselves or found online. Like, it seriously kind of reminds me of the aftermath to making my Y2K video, and truthfully, that's one thing I do love about doing video essays on niche stuff like this that was overlooked for being kinda cringe. Before we leave things off here, though, There is one question I would like to answer that I have gotten time and time again working on this project, and that question is, would you believe me if I told you that this game had a sequel? Yeah, Minecraft Story Mode Season 2. I knew of this game when I started this essay, but basically nothing about it, and the entire time I've been working on it, I've gotten questions as if I'm going to cover it at all, most likely through a second video essay. The short answer is no. So, here's the thing. I actually did purchase this game since y'all were getting me super curious about it. I wanted to get the Switch version since I assumed I could transfer over my save data, although that port is really expensive for whatever reason, so I settled for getting the PS4 version for like $30 on eBay. I played it, and I liked it quite a bit. Personally, I'd say I'd rank it above the Witherstorm arc, but below the Portal arc. And there lies kind of the problem. While it's a pretty good continuation of the story, it doesn't necessarily hit the extremely high highs or the extremely low lows that Season 1 did. And as a result, I just don't think it'd be as interesting of a game to do a video on. That and when it comes to video essay content, I tend to like to be a pretty one-and-done kind of thing with topics I cover. I don't really make sequels, quote-unquote, to them unless under extreme circumstances. That's not to say it's an uninteresting game, though. Again, it's really good. In fact, I might as well talk a bit here about it real quick since I'll probably never get to cover it in depth. So, a thing I think is worth mentioning is that this is definitely one of those sequels where the devs and writers really took criticism people had with their first game to heart. The writing is a lot better, the tone is more consistent and along the lines of what you'd expect for a game like this. It even has a pretty good moral about how to handle the fear of your friends growing apart. Doubly more so because it's a dilemma that applies not only to the villain, but one of your main cast members as well, Petra. Gotta say, I like Petra now. Yeah, I kind of introduced her saying I was pretty underwhelmed and uninterested in the character, and even by the end of Season 1, I truthfully felt almost identical. But in Season 2, she quickly became one of the more deeper characters, and I really liked following her story and, like, her growth in this. Ivor returns, and I did not expect them to do with him what they did with him, and given how unpredictable he is by default, it simultaneously feels extremely out of character, but at the same time exactly like something he would do as well. Ivor, man, he never fails to entertain me. I love this man. I hate how little attention Olivia and Axel got, though. God, they really just phased out of everything after the Witherstorm arc. It's kind of sad, honestly. I really like these two, especially Olivia. There's also a ton of new characters, too. The admin was a pretty interesting villain. I can't say I expected a borderline metafiction plot to work with this universe, but they pulled it off pretty well here. His hacked mobs are insanely fun, and made for some memorable encounters, especially the one with the Shulkers. Like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe we finally got to see Shulkers in the story mode universe. Stella is great. I thought she was going to be more of a villain, to be perfectly honest, but I still enjoyed the characterization of her there. I don't know, characters who get their way through manipulation instead of raw power are always an interesting change of pace to me. Although, her design does kind of bother me because I can't not look at her and not think of Clavy or Gavin from Ace Attorney. Like, seriously, purple suit, blonde hair, they even both have a single strand going down the same side. Was this intentional? I liked Luna infinitely more than I ever liked Ruben. For starters, she doesn't make expressions that make me question reality, like she is actually cute and charming and a pretty good animal mascot. I never thought getting bonked in the stomach would be such a good first impression, but then again, what else would you expect from this gatekeep nightlight super boss? Jack was alright. I'll give him one thing, I thought they were going to pull that cliche plot twist 2 games in a row where the heroic character everyone looks up to isn't actually as heroic as everyone thinks. No, he's actually a super skilled adventurer. Nurum, on the other hand, is just kind of there. I wanted to like this character more, villagers are always interesting in Minecraft, but it felt like he just kind of existed so Jack would have someone to bounce off of, and my god, did they ever bounce off of each other. They got that CJ flick going on where it's never explicitly said they're in a relationship, but you can kind of tell. Jeez, I guess romance really does exist in the story mode universe. I didn't really like Radar. I get what they were going for with this character, a weak underdog that you feel like you're just dragging around but has growth and really pulls their weight near the end in an unexpected way, but I don't know, man. They make the mistake of making him the annoying character, and Unless the character is Tasselhoff Burfoot, intentionally annoying is still annoying. I deliberately tried to be nice to him in my playthrough, if only because I feel like most people wouldn't have, but I still didn't really like him that much. And Zara and Binta go into that barely have an opinion on because I felt they were underutilized category, especially Binta. She's introduced so late. I actually forgot her name even when I was writing this part of the video. One thing I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did were the action sequences. Oh my god, why are these so hype in this game? They really improved these quite a lot. These went from the worst parts bar none to actually some of the best moments in the game. They even made a lot of really cool improvements as well. Like, the QTEs just feel a lot more lenient this time around. I died a few times, and whenever I did, the checkpointing felt a lot more lenient, and while this didn't happen to me, apparently if you die enough times, the game activates this, like, invincibility thing, so you can actually continue the game if you just physically can't do these action sequences. I'm gonna be honest, I wish this was a toggle in the menu as opposed to something that turned on automatically and, like, you couldn't turn it off afterwards, but I really like that they actually did implement something like this. My favorites were especially the bosses of 3 and 5. The one in Chapter 3 might have my single favorite track in the entirety of the series. It's called Gaster, I think. And I love the effects during the Chapter 5 boss. How the guy kept continuously breaking apart into glitchy pixels looked really cool. And this effect right here, where he copies the appearance of one of your characters, but his after effect is the original guy. That is awesome! That looks so cool! Dude, how have I never seen that before? I gotta steal that idea for a moment in my universe or something. And since I'm not transferring my save over, I decided for the variety of it to play as one of the female avatars. And let me tell you, after about 10 or so hours of hearing male Jesse interact with these characters, it feels weird to hear someone else doing it. Not like a bad kind of weird, but just very different. I swear, I never considered it until now, but you could probably use this duology as a case study in how interesting the topic of voice direction can be. Because despite either gender sharing the identical lines, Patton Oswalt Jesse and Catherine Tapper Jesse will often read them just a little bit differently or enunciate different parts of their sentences to put more emphasis on different lines, and it can really prove to change your perception of them after a while. Almost like they're two completely different characters that just happen to have the same name, as opposed to a single avatar you can choose the appearance of, like it is in a lot of games. Does anyone else feel that way about these two, or I guess 12 technically? God, what an unconventional way to do a blank slate protagonist, but it certainly makes her something memorable. But yeah, I apologize if you guys are looking forward to me doing a video on Season 2 at all, but I don't know, man, I kind of just want to move on to another project if that's perfectly fine. And yeah, that's my video essay on Minecraft Story Mode. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to everyone who watched these all the way through, everyone who's been sharing these parts, folks like Pinkheart Rose, Sky Kid, and many, many others are giving me cool tidbits to talk about or corrections that made these videos more entertaining and accurate. Thank you to XCage Game for letting me use their footage. Thanks you to my Patreon supporters, RoyalBlot, Sean, and GreatWolf. I am very grateful for everyone here that has helped make this review possible. Feel free to give the video a like and share, it really helps engagement. And I will see you folks in whatever I decide to make a video essay about next. Thanks for watching.